Imagine a city on the brink of catastrophe, where the shadow of impending doom looms over its defenders. Pokrovsk, a key battleground, is proclaiming its status under siege, as Russia broadcasts loud and clear that the end is nigh. Surrender now, or face annihilation, they demand. But is the demise of this city truly inevitable? Not if you listen closely. Ukraine stands resolute, defying the narrative spun by Kremlin propaganda, fighting tooth and nail to save Pokrovsk, a vital stronghold in the heart of Donetsk. The voices of those living this harrowing reality tell a different story. The situation is undeniably tense. Ukrainian soldiers are indeed struggling to maintain control, with the encroaching enemy seemingly tightening their grip. Yet, reports claiming that Pokrovsk is completely encircled are riddled with contradictions. Just a few days ago, an article published by a prominent outlet declared that Russian forces were seizing control of the city. As frantic gunfire echoes and the acrid scent of gunpowder fills the air, the image of an imminent fall resonates strongly in the media. But what if the truth diverges from this bleak portrayal? The fighting has intensified, yes, with small bands of Russian troops infiltrating the city. However, Ukrainian intelligence challenges these proclamations, asserting that the encirclement is far from reality. The claims of an encircled Pokrovsk are dismissed as propaganda, exaggerated for psychological impact. As the reports unfold, a Ukrainian soldier shares, the situation is indeed hard. But it isn't as dire as they're presenting. Further complicating the narrative, Ukrainian leadership has openly declared that their units are not surrounded. The General Staff affirmed on November 5, "There is no encirclement, our troops are actively resisting enemy infiltration." These words serve as a clarion call for resilience amidst disarray. So, what do the battlefield strategies reveal? While Russian forces appear to be sneaking in, their advance is described as a slow seep, not a full-on assault. Urban conflicts transpire with sporadic skirmishes in dimly lit streets, with heated exchanges taking place block by block. The truths emerging from the fog of war tell us that Pokrovsk is resisting, fighting back against the narrative of doom. Yet, the struggle is undeniably fierce. Ukrainian forces employ their elite units to push back, with effective tactics that have led to notable Russian casualties in the past few days. The air thrums with anticipation. Will Pokrovsk hold, or will it fall victim to the relentless tide of Russian aggression? The defense remains uncertain, yet the story is continuously unfolding, shattering the narrative of the city's imminent collapse. As the battle drums resonate, listen closely. The truth may be hidden beneath layers of noise, but resilience reigns, and the spirit of Pokrovsk endures amidst the chaos. In the midst of a fierce struggle, the city of Pokrovsk stands at a critical crossroads. Russia, in its relentless pursuit, aims to convince not just Ukraine, but the entire world, that its forces are on the verge of complete dominance. Is Pokrovsk truly encircled, or has Russia just constructed a facade of victory? The haunting question lingers in the air. With each hour, the sound of distant artillery echoes, and the acrid smell of smoke grips the city, threatening to cloud hope. Recent reports from Russia claim that Ukrainian soldiers in Pokrovsk and nearby Kupiansk should give up immediately. They assert that the situation is hopeless. The Russian Ministry of Defense boldly states that Ukrainian forces are trapped, powerless to halt their advance. However, amidst the chaos, some soldiers raise their voices, revealing a darker reality. Kononchuk, a determined sergeant in Pokrovsk's defense, paints a grim picture to reporters, sharing that conditions are deteriorating. "It's difficult," she acknowledges, "we're trying to maintain control, but it feels like we're losing ground." Instead of a broad offensive, she describes a different sinister strategy employed by their adversary. "The enemy advances slowly, infiltrating our defenses one small unit at a time," she explains, each word heavy with the weight of despair. Rumors swirl among the ranks that Ukraine's forces are encircled, confirming Russia's long-held dream since last spring. Yet, the truth remains elusive. Despite the tightening grip Russia claims to have, skepticism prevails. Reports indicate that, for weeks, these claims might not hold water. Ukrainian voices challenge the narrative, insisting it's simply Russian disinformation. The events on the ground paint a contrasting picture. The Kyiv Independent recently took a stand against communiques of encirclement, stating that the claims of complete domination remain unfounded. They assert that while the situation fluctuates and challenges abound, Pokrovsk is fighting back. Russian flags may flutter on the outskirts, but this act isn't a sign of victory, it's a calculated move for psychological warfare, a fleeting image meant to distort reality. As the air shifts with tension, soldiers strategize, keenly aware that although threats loom, Pokrovsk isn't lost yet. Constant skirmishes prove that while the enemy inches closer, there is no full encirclement. Soldiers like Sonic, operating on the front lines, emphasize, the fight is real. We see enemy groups moving, but complete encirclement is just not happening. What exactly is the truth about Pokrovsk? If Russia's narrative were entirely accurate, one would expect a cascade of triumph in their ranks. Conversely, what we observe is a muted progression marked by the effective resistance of Ukrainian forces. Importantly, amidst the challenges, today's statistics reveal resilience. Ukrainian units are striking back. The past few days alone have seen significant losses for Russian troops, with countless casualties reported. In this battle for Pokrovsk, the air thickens with tension and the scent of desperation, while the notion of surrender is met with fierce defiance. Ukraine continues to deploy elite forces, determined to repel the intruders and secure their city. An unyielding spirit pulses through every soldier, knowing that this fight is not just for territory, it's a fight for survival, identity, and hope. How will the fate of Pokrovsk unfold amid the clamor of conflict and uncertainty? Will the truth rise above the noise of war? In this narrative of survival, the heartbeats of those who defend this beleaguered city sound stronger than ever. A cloud of uncertainty looms over Pokrovsk, where the reality of war clashes with the narrative spun by Russia. As fighting escalates, many believe that Ukraine's valiant defenders are on the brink of being cornered. Russian forces, claiming to encircle the city, are driving the narrative that surrender is the only option left for the Ukrainian soldiers. But is the fall of Pokrovsk as assured as they say? Recently, reports have emerged, challenging this ominous portrayal. On October 29, independent analyses indicated that claims of complete encirclement by Russia were nothing but an exaggerated tale. While Russia did manage to hoist its flag on the western edge of the city, a gesture more for show than genuine control, this act did not mark the moment of total dominance they desperately want the world to perceive. Yes, Russian troops are attempting infiltration, yet they do so in small numbers, evading any major confrontations. Ukraine's commander-in-chief, Alexander Syrsky, took to social media to expose the truth. He asserted that Putin's claims do not align with reality. The enemy is not fighting within Pokrovsk, Syrsky stated. Instead, they gather covertly within urban spaces, avoiding full confrontations while waiting for opportunities for propaganda victories. Ukrainian soldiers, including Sergeant Kononchuk, occasionally acknowledge the tough circumstances on the ground. They express the challenges faced but underline the fact that Russia's strategy of slow infiltration doesn't equate to complete encirclement. A soldier known as Sonic, a drone operator, recently spoke out, refuting the claims of any encirclement in their area. There is no total encirclement in Pokrovsk or Minrad, Sonic insisted. In this high-stakes environment, both sides are firmly entrenched. While Pokrovsk's defenders are up against a formidable foe, the encirclement, so fervently proclaimed by Russia, remains unproven. Can Ukraine hold its ground? As the tension rises, every moment could shift the tide. The real question remains, will the cries of impending doom from Russian propaganda prove true, or is it merely a tactical bluff in the ever-evolving battlefield of Pokrovsk? In the heart of conflict, could the destiny of Pokrovsk hinge on a single moment? As the tension simmers, Russian forces proclaim the city is on the verge of collapse, yet Ukraine insists the narrative is far from the truth. Reports flood in, the situation appears dire, but the spirit of Ukraine's defense remains unbroken. It's a battle of wills, deception, and survival as the future of Pokrovsk teeters on the edge. Recent days have painted a grim picture. Russian propaganda shouts about encirclement, claiming lives are at risk daily, but Ukrainian voices rise in defiance. They assert that, while threats loom, the situation is not as catastrophic as portrayed. Defying the narrative, Ukrainian troops implement countermeasures to disrupt the enemy's advances. Special operations squads are deployed within Pokrovsk, weaving through chaos to secure and rescue. On the ground, the scene is one of both tension and determination. News reports highlight the exacting toll on Russian forces. In just 24 hours, Ukraine managed to eliminate 26 enemy soldiers and incapacitate many more. With significant losses reported, 249 Russian casualties, reports indicate that Pokrovsk remains a battleground, not a lost cause. Ukrainian defenders witness a different story. strategic gains are made through tactical finesse rather than brute force. As the clock ticks, anticipation builds. Are Russian troops secretly retreating amidst unexpected losses? Reports suggest their encroachments are less about encirclement and more about strategic probing, as they cling to the pretense of dominance. In clandestine corners of Pokrovsk, Ukrainian soldiers, on alert and resolute, engage in a dangerous game of hide-and-seek. Despite the challenges, hope glimmers in the air like a flash of light through the smoke. Ukrainian forces, bolstered by elite units, fight to re-establish control. The Guardian noted that a determined struggle is underway, contrasting the bold claims of Russia. For every small unit methodically infiltrating, a match is lit against the shadow of encroaching despair. Tactical retreats give way to calculated assaults as each soldier clings to their goal, to defend their homeland against the tides of war. In this high-stakes drama, every heartbeat counts, as does every decision made in the heat of the moment. Will the relentless spirit of Ukraine hold out against the surge of poised aggression? With each passing day, the outcome hangs in the balance, and the stakes have never been higher. Imagine the dust-choked streets of Pokrovsk, where every shadow hides a whisper of danger. Can a single flag truly defy an empire's grip? As Ukraine ramps up its elite defenses in Pokrovsk, adapting to sneaky enemy tactics with special forces on the front lines, the Guardian's November 2 report painted a tense picture of infiltration. Around 200 Russian soldiers had slipped into the city back then. That number sharpens the losses we just discussed. Picture it, only 200 intruders on November 2. A few more trickled in over the next days. Yet, between November 2 and 4, Russia tallied 249 casualties. Most of those infiltrators? Neutralized swiftly, before they could dig in deep. The air hummed with tension, the ground scarred from hurried retreats, as Ukraine's defenders held firm. The Guardian's same piece echoed more from Commander-in-Chief Alexander Syrsky. He described pressure from a 1,000-strong enemy force. But those numbers? They weren't tipping the scales. Pokrovsk stayed unencircled. Ukraine kept supply lines flowing through and around the city, even as those seeping assaults pressed on. The chill of autumn winds carried echoes of distant rumbles, urging resolve amid uncertainty. Now, with special forces stepping in, Ukraine's hold on Pokrovsk sharpens. Defenses organize tighter. Infiltration teams face quicker counters. And early signs? Those elite units are already shifting the tide. Sensory chaos smokes acrid bite, the metallic tang of resolve fuels the fight. Ukraine claims a stunning win, not just on the ground, but against the fog of propaganda. On November 5, the Kyiv Independent spotlighted a bold move. Ukrainian forces reclaimed the Pokrovsk City Council building. They hoisted their national flag high. Heart-pounding heroism unfolded there. The 425th Separate Assault Brigade led the charge. They shared on Telegram, "Our assault team restored the Ukrainian flag over the city council in Pokrovsk." Excitement pulsed through their words, like a heartbeat echoing victory. That same brigade dropped a video online. It detailed the operation. Raw footage captured the building storming. The flag's triumphant rise. But wait, a twist amid the triumph. Not all went smoothly in that counter-push. A Ukrainian vehicle took a hit from a Russian drone. One soldier ended up with a minor injury. The sting of that moment? A reminder of risks, yet unbreakable spirit. Who leads these daring souls? The commander of the 425th's 1st Assault Battalion steps forward, but what secrets does that video hide next? In the last segment, not everything unfolded perfectly during the counter-assault. A Ukrainian military vehicle faced a strike from a Russian drone, leaving a soldier with minor injuries. The commander of the 1st Assault Battalion in the 425th Separate Assault Regiment pressed on despite the chaos. Now, imagine the dust settling, the acrid smell of explosives hanging in the air, and that commander, branded the biter, embodying sheer defiance. Is Ukraine turning the tide in Pokrovsk, or is this just another illusion in Russia's grand deception? The biter wasn't just any fighter. He was the one who saw the operation through to its gritty end. Wounded and determined, he snarled through the pain, rejecting evacuation. Clawing his way forward, despite blood soaking his uniform and the distant roar of artillery echoing like thunder, he reached the objective. Raising the Ukrainian flag amid the smoke-choked ruins felt like a punch to Russia's chest. His voice, hoarse and unrelenting, "I finished the mission, no surrender." Suddenly, let's challenge the myth: could this hero stand humiliate Putin's encirclement claims, or is there a darker twist brewing? Ukrainian reports align with this tale. Think of the infiltrators slipping through shadows like whispers in the night. Ukraine's team entered Pokrovsk, intelligence eyes scanning every alley where dust swirls and the metallic tang of danger lingers. Reinforcements pour in now, boots pounding the ground, hearts racing against the unseen enemy. Preparing for battle's wrath, yet Pokrovsk remains unbroken. No complete siege clamps down. Why would Russia boast falsehoods? Feel the sweat on your palms. Does their propaganda crumble, or does it mask a trap waiting to snap? Envision Pokrovsk not as a tomb, but a hunting ground. Small Russian squadrons hunker in urban sprawls, hiding like rats in sewers, the stench of fear mixing with gun oil. They dodge clashes, seeking concealment. Ukraine's response? Seek and obliterate. Drones hum like vengeful wasps, pinpointing targets. It's not conquest, it's suicide by invitation. Can you hear the gunfires crack, feel the earth tremble? Russia's so-called dominance shatters against relentless pursuit. Could this reveal Ukraine's mastery over the shadows, or is the Kremlin weaving a web of lies even deeper? More proof pierces the fog. Australia's ABC echoes Zelensky's November 3 words. Around 300 Russian troops lurk in Pokrovsk. No sweeping victories. In Kupiansk, just 60 souls. These aren't seekers, they're ghosts, infiltrating piecemeal. Boots crunching rubble, breaths ragged in the cold. Zelensky warns, evacuate? Absurd. Putin's tale spins domination, yet soldiers fall, their screams muffled by blasts. Does this expose Russia's bluff, humiliating the relentless bully, or stirs a hidden storm? Two tales clash. Russia deceives, Ukraine holds firm. Pokrovsk teeters on the brink, sea sky admits thousands flung into the fray. Yet, Sonic's voice cuts through many novice cannon fodder, eyes wide with inexperience. No frontal hordes, just stealthy drips, 1, 2, 3 units seeping like poison. The tactile grip of fear, grubby fingers on rifles, the bitter chill of uncertainty. Are these struggling invaders easy prey for Ukraine's hunters, or does a tactical evolution turn the tables in Russia's favor? Infiltrating squads creep onward, but the city's fate hangs by a thread. What if Ukraine's reinforcements aren't enough? Will the siege crush them all? The relentless struggle for Pokrovsk transforms into a battleground of narratives, one claiming certain victory, the other defending against despair. As the situation escalates, murky realities creep in. Russia insists it has encircled this crucial city, while brave Ukrainian forces demand to differ. So, who's telling the truth? Are we witnessing the decisive moment of potential domination, or a clever facade obscuring the true chaos on the ground? Pokrovsk hangs in a precarious balance, held hostage by the clashing propaganda and harrowing realities. While Russia boasts of encircling triumph, whispers among the defenders echo with uncertainty. The gray areas surrounding Pokrovsk bleed into a perplexing web of ongoing skirmishes, suggesting stability remains just out of reach. If Russia's claims are solid, an overwhelming tide of soldiers should be advancing. Instead, small bands of fresh recruits infiltrate, meticulous but lacking the experience for successful outright assaults. Yet what makes Pokrovsk so vital? Its strategic significance extends beyond immediate control. It is the linchpin for Ukraine's defense strategy in the Donetsk region. The BBC emphasizes this point, narrating the relentless push from Russia since February 2024, a futile attempt that has left them clawing for success at last. The stakes become clearer as the potential for a domino effect looms. If Pokrovsk falls, its neighboring satellite cities falter next, giving Russian troops the upper hand to shift their attention to nearby critical locations. This high-stakes game of strategy pivots the spotlight onto Ukraine. If they manage to stanch the bleeding in Pokrovsk, they salvage more than just a city, they protect a lifeline that sustains their defensive capabilities across the entire region. Should Pokrovsk succumb, it won't be the end for Ukraine, albeit a sharply painful setback. Defensive lines exist, ready to absorb and regroup, but the loss would underscore nearly 2 years of struggles for Russia with minimal territorial yield. Amid the dread and confusion, one question lingers: will Ukraine withstand this onslaught? Ukrainian command repeatedly asserts their commitment to repel, armed with tenacity to thwart infiltrating forces. Recent analytics reveal heavy casualties for Russia, 247 in just days, showcasing the resilience of Ukrainian warriors, unwilling to cede ground without a fierce fight. They dig in, executing well-coordinated operations against those infiltrators trying to claim false victories amid a storm of chaos. The fight for Pokrovsk captivates but is far from finalized. The balance teeters, and the clock ticks. Who will secure the future of this diminishing landscape? In the intensifying struggle for Pokrovsk, a critical battleground in eastern Ukraine, the stakes are towering. The world watches nervously as Russian authorities proclaim the city encircled, declaring it only a matter of time before it falls. But is this the unfolding truth, or merely a cunning narrative spun to undermine morale? The situation in Pokrovsk is fraught with tension, and the reality defies the simplistic narratives pushed by state-backed media outlets. As explosions echo in the distance and the acrid smell of gunpowder permeates the air, Ukrainian troops remain steadfast. The city's defenders grapple with illegal encroachments while clinging to hope despite Russia's relentless claims. One Ukrainian soldier, Sergeant Kononchuk, encapsulated the strife, stating, "The situation is challenging. We are facing increasing pressure." But isn't it curious that despite the chaos, many voices within Ukraine assert that the supposed encirclement is a facade? The narrative from Russian media paints a dire picture, claiming an iron grip on Pokrovsk. However, conflicting accounts reveal a different reality. Analysts from the Kyiv Independent caution against accepting these claims at face value. They reveal that while Russian forces have made small advances, they are far from the overwhelming presence the Kremlin suggests. As night falls and the chill creeps in, Ukrainian operatives quietly prepare for their own offensive. An echoing command from their leaders resonates: find, disrupt, and defend. Support units from special operations blend into the shadows, ready to counter Russian tactics of infiltration. And as one soldier pointed out, it's the infantry that will determine the front line, not the drones overhead. What happens if Pokrovsk falls? Amid the uncertainty, the BBC notes that even if the city slips from Ukraine's grasp, it's not the end of the road. The sands of war are ever shifting. According to experts, Pokrovsk's loss does not spell defeat for Donetsk, where reinforced defensive lines might facilitate a strategic withdrawal. Russian forces might find that the cost of such a victory is steep, draining precious resources and manpower. In a surprising twist, some analysts predict that even if Pokrovsk is lost, lessons will be learned, and strategies adapted. The implication is clear: Ukraine has plans in place for a protracted defense, ready to surprise the invaders. With military intensity mounting, and the territories around Pokrovsk prepared for a fierce resistance, Russia may find that victory, while seemingly within reach, is a mirage fraught with peril. Still, as Russian forces systematically attempt to tighten their control over the city, questions loom large. Can Ukraine adapt swiftly enough to avoid chaos? Are the defenders ready for an intense fight to the last man? Amidst the chaos, Pokrovsk remains a fierce symbol of resistance, and whispers of resilience echo through its streets. The tide of war is fickle, and only time will reveal the ultimate fate of this battleground. In the shadows of relentless battles, Ukraine's drones hum like angry wasps overhead, guarding vital fronts while ground troops hold the line with sheer grit. Voices from the trenches echo a desperate plea: more infantry to solidify defenses, not just aerial sentinels. Reinforcements trickle in, but whispers of counterplay stir the air, Ukraine eyeing Russia's own vulnerabilities. Can Russia's looming shadow over Pokrovsk truly snuff out Ukrainian resolve, or is a shocking reversal brewing that could humiliate Putin's grand claims? Imagine the damp earth quivering under boots, the acrid stench of burning fuel choking the skies as unseen traps await invaders. It's a heartbeat's edge, where propaganda clashes with brutal reality. Shock reverberates: even if Pokrovsk falters, Ukraine's fortified retreat lines promise a blood-soaked grind, potentially crippling over 100,000 Russian lives in a meat grinder of mazes. Debates rage: does the city's fate seal doom, or unleash hell on its attackers? Analysts from independent voices weigh in, skeptical of premature collapse. Think of it: vast networks of trenches snaking like veins through the soil, barriers biting into flesh, barbed wire snarls that tear and tangle, all sculpted for a fighting withdrawal. Hidden minefields slumber beneath bunkers, ready to erupt in firestorms. Meticulous calibrations target advancing foes, turning Russia's drive into a slaughterhouse on Ukraine's eastern edge. The landscape breathes resistance, from the rusty tang of soil to the echo of distant explosions. Yet, for now, no full circle of doom binds Pokrovsk. Ukraine plots a swift exodus, sources suggest, from a city drenched in Russian blood. Over 100,000 soldiers sacrificed in vain. Survivors, if any, face relentless pursuit into Ukraine's labyrinthine defenses beyond the front. No victory parade here, just unyielding trenches and traps engineered to crush. Feel the chill of uncertainty. Will Putin push his battered ranks onward, only to shatter them against these iron walls? For months, Ukraine has scorched Russia's lifelines, drones buzzing like vengeful spirits over oil refineries erupting in orange fury, supply ports crumbling under strikes. Black smoke plumes rise, the bitter fumes of victory mingling with the crackle of flames. Now, adept at disruption, Ukraine escalates, not abandoning success, but amplifying it. Refinery raids persist, but a bolder gambit emerges, targeting a lifeline no nation endures lightly: electricity. On November 5, reports unveil the shocking expansion. Long-range assaults shift from refineries and warships to Russia's pulsing power grid. Imagine power plants shuddering, lights flickering out across western expanses, plunging lives into cold voids. The goal? Orchestrate colossal blackouts, cities swallowed by silence, homes unheated, industries grounded. Is this the twist that exposes Russia's fragility, turning the tables in a storm of humiliation? Ukraine's gambit evolves, leveraging a resource Vladimir Putin once wielded against them. Retaliation builds, with strikes poised to darken southern Russia's skies. Citizens huddled against the oppressive gloom, unable to flee their frozen realms. The sensory assault is visceral, generators sputtering to life, the metallic bite of cold air, fear clawing at throats. How far will this energy war climax, potentially crippling Russia's war machine? Details flood in. Ukraine aims to destabilize deeply, where blackouts choke off warmth and mobility. Pauses in the narrative reveal the crescendo. These aren't isolated pricks, but calculated blows to erode resolve. The air thickens with tension, as if the very earth anticipates audible reverberations of collapsing infrastructure. What unexpected betrayals lurk in this power play, ready to redefine the conflict's brutal dance? How might Russia's electrical arteries bleed out, leaving Putin's boasts in tatters? And if Ukraine succeeds here, could it herald a tidal shift that forces even the mightiest empire to its knees, rewriting the war's merciless script? Is it true? Russia's grip on Pokrovsk is slipping into inevitability? Can Ukraine really shatter the Kremlin's iron fist? Shocking reports claim the city is encircled, soldiers trapped, surrender the only option. But hold on, Ukraine strikes back with brutal accuracy, targeting Russia's lifeblood. Feel the dread, the cold sweat of powerless nights ahead. Building on the fierce defense of Pokrovsk, where Ukrainian forces deny encirclement and relentlessly hunt infiltrating Russian troops, diluting the enemy's so-called unstoppable waves, a darker shadow looms from Kiev. Ukraine is unleashing long-range terror on Russia's fragile power grid. Previously, strikes hit refineries and warships in the Black Sea. Now, the grid itself crumbles. Korshak reveals the goal: plunge western and southern Russia into abyss-like blackouts. Citizens shiver in pitch darkness. Homes go cold, electric veins severed. This mirrors Putin's winter assaults on Ukraine: freezing, starving, snuffing out hope. Why so severe? High-voltage currents surge uncontrolled, frying devices with pops and cracks. Smell the acrid scorch of burnt circuits. Touch the jagged edges of a shattered transformer. Burns warn of the chaos. Ukraine's plan is stark. Strike electrical substations and transformers within drone and missile reach. Korshak calls it a knockout blow against the Russian Federation's grid. Oil and gas attacks now expand to blast power hubs across South and West Russia. Plunge industries, cities into void. Why these targets? They are the electric highways of Russia. Substations convert voltages, keeping power flowing nationwide. Without them, no lights, no warmth, no machines hum. Distribution substations crank down volts for homes, shops, every outlet. Transmission ones link power plants to grids, far-flung junctions alive with surge. Transformers inside? They switch volts, like heart valves pumping life. But the blackout curse will not stop here. What if Ukraine succeeds? Will Russia's war machine stall, cities wail in darkness? Feel the panic, lights flickering out one by one. Is this the twist that humiliates Putin, turning his own weapon against him? Ukraine adapts, evolves, fights like lions. Yet, the enemy's roar echoes, infiltration seeping deeper. Will the grid shatter first? Or will Ukraine's defenses crack under the weight? Tension coils like a live wire, ready to snap. In the high-stakes game of war, every piece of infrastructure becomes a vital lifeline for survival. One pivotal element that often goes unnoticed is the substation. These facilities manage the flow of electricity, ensuring that high-voltage power can be transformed into usable energy for homes and businesses. Imagine plugging in your phone only to watch it spark and burn out. This is what happens when voltage is mismanaged. Transformers, stationed within these substations, act like converters, navigating the balance between voltage and current. High currents bring unwanted heat, leading to potential failure or damage. Thus, the loss of a transformer, while it may seem minor amidst a conflict, can disrupt entire regions, plunging them into darkness. Amidst the tumult of war, targeting substantial energy-generating facilities is deemed too risky for Ukraine. Heavily fortified and crucially located, these sites pose a high threat to any incoming drone. Instead, Ukraine has honed its strategy to focus on substations and transformers, vital conduits in Russia's energy grid. Recently, reports surfaced citing a drone strike on the Vladimir-Sky high-voltage substation, a critical target for crippling energy access. As these assaults intensify, the tension thickens. Will these strategic strikes turn the tide in a potentially relentless battle? The buzzing sound of drones fills the air, and the thundering explosion echoes behind a perimeter fence, marking yet another strike. Ukraine knows that without these substations, Russia faces significant energy outages. The stakes are immense as both sides navigate this tangled web of power and resistance. The fight for control over electricity isn't just about blackouts, it's a war for supremacy, for survival in the chilling grip of winter. Can Ukraine maintain its resilience against the odds? In these chaotic circumstances, the narrative unfolds. With each targeting of these key infrastructures, Ukraine gains a foothold, pitching itself against a sprawling enemy. Stories from soldiers on the ground reveal the complexities of battle, their faces weary yet resolute. While some claim encirclement, others deny it with fiery conviction, underscoring the psychological tactics at play. Will the strategies employed by either side ultimately define the fate of this brutal conflict? As attacks escalate, victory hangs delicately in the air like a whisper, waiting to be claimed. In a world filled with uncertainty, the fate of Pokrovsk hangs by a thread. With propaganda blaring from the Kremlin, Russian officials proclaim that Ukrainian forces are cornered, urging them to surrender. The narrative suggests that the city's fall is imminent, but is that the entire story? As reports flood in about the situation on the ground, a stark contrast emerges between perception and reality. Could it be that Ukraine is far from defeated? On November 5, news outlets buzzed with reports of Russian advances into Pokrovsk. The Guardian echoed the sentiment that a breakthrough for Russia was near. As the sounds of conflict fill the air and the ground shakes beneath booted feet, Russian forces indeed intensified their efforts. Yet, Ukraine insists the city remains under its control. With voices from the front lines claiming that the situation is dire but not hopeless, who can discern the truth? One Ukrainian soldier, Sergeant Kononchuk, paints a grim picture of relentless hardship. The sounds of explosions, the acrid smell of smoke, the front line is fraught with danger. Despite this, she argues that the enemy's push is less about overpowering assault and more about a slow infiltration, one unit at a time. Imaging the grinding atmosphere of uncertainty, what must it feel like for those stationed in a besieged city? While Russian forces claim they have encircled Pokrovsk, skepticism lingers. The Kyiv Independent challenges this narrative, asserting that full encirclement is an illusion. There is evidence that Russian tactics have evolved into a creeping strategy, not a conquering siege. Soldiers report sporadic skirmishes, leaving one to wonder, if the situation isn't as desperate as it appears, could Ukraine still hold the line? Even as reports of conflict and confusion swirl, whispers of secret operations seep through the cracks. Ukrainian forces engage not just in defense but in tactics designed to counteract infiltration. Drones, silent predators in the sky, reveal vulnerabilities in Russian defenses. With reports noting the destruction of enemy positions, could these guerrilla tactics be the key to turning the tide against encroaching forces? Amidst the chaos, on the edge of despair, hope emerges. The Ukrainian command asserts, "There is no encirclement of our units." This defiant statement reverberates with conviction. Armed not just with weapons but determination, Ukrainian troops strategize to undermine their adversaries. Could the heart of Pokrovsk still beat strongly against the odds? A remarkable revelation draws near. On November 5, one noteworthy attack unfolded within a staggering context. Ukraine's drone struck the Vladimirsky high-voltage substation. The crackling sound of energy being disrupted resonates through the atmosphere. Ukrainian units seem to have opted for softer targets, sidestepping Russian defenses at major facilities. What does this explosive strike mean for the broader conflict? As the dust settles, the impact of this operation becomes clear. A direct hit on a facility crucial for power distribution, a facility linking major energy sources, threatens to plunge regions into darkness. The very infrastructure that thousands rely on shakes under the weight of targeted assaults. What does this imply for Russia's ability to sustain its war effort? In the days leading up to the attack, the vulnerability of the substation became glaringly evident. Sparse defenses revealed cracks in Russian security, inviting Ukraine to exploit them. Could this shift in tactical focus potentially alter the course of the conflict? With each attack, the stakes rise, and the war's landscape shifts. As the clash for Pokrovsk evolves, the true narrative teeters on the edge of exposure. What will happen next in this unfolding drama? The voltage from Russia's power grid is trembling, and at the heart of this turmoil lies an intricate web of strategy and desperation. The Vladimirsky substation, a crucial lifeline for over 750,000 people, including those in the bustling city of Moscow, has been targeted relentlessly. What can lead to the choice of such a pivotal target? It's a tactical decision that echoes in every corner of the battlefield, where the whispers of war mix with the piercing drone of the unmistakable Bobur. When Ukraine launched an audacious attack on this facility using the Bobur long-range drones, it wasn't just about disrupting power. It was about striking a blow to Russia's military infrastructure. The Bobur, nicknamed the Beaver, boasts a remarkable range of 370 to 620 miles and a lethal KZ-6 shape charge, allowing it to penetrate fortified targets with precision. After a recent upgrade, it now navigates like a first-person view drone, showcasing the advanced capabilities of Ukraine's intelligence apparatus. On October 31 and again on November 5, the substation faced the wrath of Ukrainian forces. With each strike, the stakes are raised, sending shockwaves through the greater Moscow power grid and beyond. Russian officials scramble to repair the damage as 30,000 citizens are plunged into darkness, all while grappling with a 10% voltage drop affecting the heart of Moscow itself. How much longer can Russia withstand this onslaught? But the Vladimirsky strike is just one chapter in a much larger narrative. Highlights of Militany's reports reveal that this operation is part of a systematic campaign. With 16 strikes in a mere 17 days aimed at crippling Russia's electricity capabilities. As the lights flicker and power fails, the question looms larger: are these attacks sheer desperation or are they heralding a new era of warfare geared towards crippling infrastructures? In cities like Nizhny Novgorod, the echoes of conflict lay bare the impact of these hits, highlighting both the tactical brilliance and the brutal realities of this ongoing struggle. Amidst the chaos, the image of a powerful nation grappling with the disintegration of its electrical grid sends a clear message: Ukraine is retaliating, and with each strike, the foundation of Russia's military strength is shaken. But as the dust settles, will this strategy hold the power to turn the tide of war, or is it a flicker in a darkening landscape? The answer lies in the crucible of battle that continues to unfold. In the shadowed heart of Novgorod, Ukraine's precision strike shattered the Huzama-Skyer substation. Imagine the sudden blackout, lights flickering out like dying stars, plunging 50,000 homes into eerie darkness. The air grew thick with frustration, families fumbling for candles amid the chill of uncertainty. But this wasn't just chaos for civilians. Deep in the region's factories, ammunition lines ground to a halt, production slashed by 25%, according to Militany's sharp analysis. Russia's war machine stuttered, its bullets and bombs delayed, leaving soldiers on distant fronts exposed and desperate. What if a single spark could unravel an empire's edge? In Voronezh, another blow landed hard. 15,000 souls lost power in an instant, their nights swallowed by silence broken only by the hum of generators straining in vain. Worse still, 40% of the area's mobile networks collapsed, phones dead, voices silenced, connections to the world severed like a knife through fog. The ripple? Panic in the streets, whispers of vulnerability spreading like wildfire. Ukraine's strategy wasn't blind rage, it was calculated fury, hitting nerves that made Russia feel the war's icy grip firsthand. Feel the tremor in occupied Donbas, where a daring Ukrainian raid targeted a substation they once called their own. Water supplies plunged by 50%, taps running dry, dusty throats parched under relentless sun. Blackouts blanketed the land, turning bustling towns into ghost realms of flickering shadows. And in Rostov, local airfields gasped for power, runways dark and lifeless. Aircraft grounded. Wings clipped before they could soar into hostile skies. The message echoed, every hum of a transformer was a thread in Russia's fragile web, now fraying at Ukraine's touch. These weren't random acts of defiance. They carried dual blades, one slicing civilian comfort, forcing ordinary Russians to taste the invasion's bitter cost, the other weakening the beast's claws, starving frontline troops of fuel, comms, and might. How deep does this wound go? Take Korshak's piercing report in the Kiev Post. He widened the lens beyond fleeting days, tallying strikes over nearly a month. Since October 13, Ukraine's bold planners unleashed at least 29 targeted assaults on power grids deep inside Russia and seized Ukrainian soil. Each one zeroed in on vulnerable spots, flammable cores of transformer stations, ignited with surgical flames that roared to life, devouring infrastructure in billowing smoke and acrid heat. Picture the evolution unfolding. Ukraine's long-range drones, once blunt hammers, now sly predators slipping through the night. But as these fiery successes mount, what hidden counterstrike brews in Moscow's war rooms? Could one desperate retaliation flip the skies against Ukraine's daring fleet? The world is captivated by the ongoing battle in Pokrovsk, a city caught in the crosshairs of escalating warfare. Russia wants everyone to believe that this city is on the brink of surrender. It's only a matter of time, they claim, feeding this narrative to rock the morale of Ukrainian defenders. But behind this story lies a complex web of conflicting reports, each more riveting than the last. From the beating heart of battle, reports churn out suggestions of an impending Russian victory as they assert their grip on Pokrovsk. Major media outlets announce imminent fallings of the city, fueling anxiety and uncertainty. On November 5, The Guardian reported that Russia was tightening its hold while fighting raged relentlessly. And yes, the situation looks grim. Ukrainian forces are under immense pressure. But are they really encircled, as claimed? Contrary to the flurries of reports, some voices rise amidst the chaos, challenging the prevailing narrative. The Ukrainian defense isn't crumbling silently, it's fighting back, straining against the weight of propaganda. Soldiers on the ground reveal a different picture, one where resilience and determination eclipse despair. Despite the daunting odds, they are deconstructing the myth that Pokrovsk is trapped. On the ground, sergeants like Kononchuk describe the tense reality: the situation is tough. We're doing our best to hold on. Yet, Russian tactics are evolving, pivoting towards a strategy of infiltration rather than grand assaults. Each day brings whispers of battles fought in dark alleyways and decrepit buildings. Could it be that Russia's claims of encirclement are just that, a claim, devoid of substance? Yet even as Ukraine faces dire conditions, hope glimmers. The interviews with soldiers underscore a common belief: there is no full encirclement. These reinforced voices echo within the walls of media and military intelligence alike, calling into question Putin's narrative of imminent victory. Perhaps the truth lies not in encirclement, but in the spirit of resistance, a determination to withstand. As the situation evolves, stunned silence often follows the fighting, questioning the very nature of victory. On one hand, encroachments are indeed happening. But the facts? They tell a different story. Despite Russian advances, Ukrainian forces continue to disrupt, their resolve hardening like fortified steel. With reports tallying casualties on both sides, a sense of urgency grows. As Ukraine adapts its strategies, it deploys elite units to counteract the Russian advances, instilling fear and uncertainty in the invading ranks. In an orchestrated symphony of defiance, Ukrainian forces conduct precision strikes against Russian units, revealing a tactical prowess that ripples through the battlefield. But what about the allegations of encirclement? As the days slip away, the narrative shifts, a twist in the tale seems imminent. Analysts ponder, could this misinformation serve a greater purpose? Distracting from the persistent resistance or bolstering Russian morale? The stakes climb higher as both sides brace for the inevitable clashes that lie ahead. Ukrainians are fortified. They are informing and educating their troops, even as enemy encroachments tactically leak through. Recent losses inflict anguish, yet the spirit remains unyielded. With rapid intel gleaned from the front lines, The rhythm of battle beats on, with both sides ever evolving, adapting, and plotting their next moves. The front line hums with tension, the air thick with the palpable energy of conflict. The outcome remains uncertain. Will Pokrovsk fall? Or will it stand resolutely as a symbol of defiance against the tide of aggression? The layered narratives of hope, resistance, and grit pit themselves against the ironclad claims of Russian superiority, leaving the world at the edge of its seat, waiting for the next twist in this enthralling saga. In the shadow of Pokrovsk's crumbling walls, where the air hung thick with the acrid stench of gunpowder and the distant roar of artillery echoed like thunder, Ukraine's defiance raged on. Trenches carved deep into the earth, slick with rain and mud, clung desperately to every inch of ground. Soldiers' boots squelched through the muck, their hearts pounding against the cold steel of rifles, as Russia's relentless seepage strategy chipped away at hope. Yet, Ukraine's elite units, eyes sharp as hawks, hunted the infiltrators through urban labyrinths, turning the tide with precision strikes. Dive into this harrowing saga where one question burns: is Russia's encirclement of Pokrovsk just a desperate illusion to hide their crumbling grip on the war's most vital fronts? Ukraine's refinery strikes are escalating, hitting harder than ever in 2024 with months still ahead for more devastation. Targeting sites repeatedly in quick succession, these attacks mirror the brutal efficiency of the Vladimirskia substation assaults struck twice within a week, leaving repairs a futile chase. Here, the blueprint emerges for Ukraine's long-range evolution, a dance of destruction that cripples without mercy. Shifting back to the refinery onslaught's brutal impact, United 24 Media reveals a staggering truth: Russia has sacrificed nearly 40% of its refining capacity by October's end. Refineries, those industrial behemoths, transform crude oil into the lifeblood of war and peace gasoline and diesel fueling vehicles and dreams. With output plummeting, fuel prices soar across the nation. A fiery inflation burning through wallets. Exports slump wildly, Black Sea shipments crashed 23.2% in September alone. Imagine the sting: Putin's coffers hemorrhaging, but worse, his power eroding from within. Civilians now endure caps on gasoline purchases, fuel stations morphing into battlegrounds of scarcity. The Insider's November 3 report paints a grim canvas: strikes colliding with peak seasonal demand and plant maintenance, birthing a gasoline crisis that engulfs nearly 60 regions. Annexed Crimea suffers the deepest wounds, a 20-liter per person limit sparking panic, endless queues snaking under overcast skies, the faint buzz of engines replaced by angry shouts and the stench of desperation. Fuel theft becomes rampant, officials freezing prices for 30 days in a desperate bandage. But will this nightmare fade? Hardly. As if the blows weren't enough, Ukraine's relentlessness foreshadows peril for Russia's jet fuel reservoirs. The Moscow Times warns on November 4 of brewing storms in aviation supply, a shocking ripple that could ground Putin's wings of war. What dark twist looms for his skies now? Picture the irony: Russia's air might turn traitor, with every refinery ruin echoing the humiliation of a once invincible empire teetering on empty tanks. And yet, as fuel pipelines whisper of collapse, could this be the twist that forces Putin to beg? Who will control the skies when the ground forces starve for fuel? Reflecting on the refinery ruins, where fires licked at oil-slicked wreckage and the bitter tang of burnt oil choked the air. Ukraine's strikes had sown the seeds of chaos far beyond the battlefield. Echoing the Vladimirskia double-tap, hit in a week's merciless grip, these assaults weren't random, they were evolution, a long-range strategy reborn from fire. But the refinery hits were just the spark. Has Ukraine's war shifted from trenches to pipelines? Claw back to the devastation: Russia hemorrhaged nearly 40% of refining might by October, refineries grinding crude into gasoline and diesel silence. Prices erupted like volcanoes, exports nosediving, Black Sea drops plunging 23.2% in September. And the pocketbook agony? Putin's empire gasps, but real terror grips his people. Gasoline limits chain civilians, fueling frenzies. The Insider's November 3 expose lays bare the horror: strikes smashing seasonal peaks in maintenance, starving 60 regions. Crimea, annexed and afflicted worst, caps at 20 liters per soul, queues lengthening under gray skies, the hum of muted engines yielding to curses, the sharp scent of fear as theft thrives. Prices frozen for 30 days, a hollow shield against the tide. Will respite come? Not soon. Ukraine's hammers swing harder, and on November 4, the Moscow Times unveils a chilling prophecy: Russia's jet fuel veins may rupture entirely. What excruciating blow will cripple Putin's aerial arsenal next? Envision the reversal: Russia's dominance gusting away like vapor, elite forces stranded, a leader's arrogance crushed by empty skies. But wait, as fuel woes deepen, might Ukraine's drones now reign supreme, engineering the ultimate downfall? Could this shortage shatter Russian resolve? Turning winter's chill into a parade of surrender? Hold your breath, what forbidden secret hides in those battered barrels? In the heart of the conflict, a city hangs in the balance. Pokrovsk stands at a critical juncture. Russia's relentless advance has ensnared it, fueling claims that surrender is Ukraine's only option. But is this narrative a carefully constructed facade? As darkness descends, a crucial question lingers: can the spirit of Ukraine withstand the encroaching tide of Russian forces? Pokrovsk streets, once buzzing with life, now echo with the sounds of conflict. The distant thundering of artillery and the sharp crack of gunfire slice through the air. Russian propaganda paints a grim picture, boasting of an impending victory. However, Ukrainian resilience remains steadfast. Reports of their troops surrounded create an ominous atmosphere, yet voices from the front lines tell a different tale. "We're still fighting," says Sergeant Kononchuk, as tension builds around her. As November unfolds, a storm brews. Conflicting reports flood the media. Outlets like The Guardian sound alarms of Russia tightening its grip, but bolstered by a chorus of Ukrainian commanders, hope flickers like a candle in the dark. While the situation appears dire, the Ukrainian military refuses to concede. Indeed, military strategies reveal a deeper truth about the nature of the conflict. Russia's bold claims sometimes disguise their faltering grip on reality. Despite the swirling uncertainty, a fire ignites in the heart of Ukrainian forces. They adapt all too rapidly, deploying specialized units to dismantle Russian tactics infiltrating the city. All the while, the air thickens with tension, ringing with the whispers of what's at stake, not just the city, but its very soul. As days progress, the battle becomes a haunting struggle. The battlefield transforms into a deadly chess game where each move holds monumental consequences. Ukrainian forces launch desperate strikes against Russian infiltrators lurking in the shadows, tracking them down with precision. The smell of burnt earth lingers in the air, mingled with the acrid scent of explosives. What seems like a defeat could instead turn the tide against the oppressive forces of the Kremlin. Amidst intense skirmishes, reports surface revealing higher Russian losses than anticipated, and this could indicate a significant shift. As pressure mounts, could Ukraine's defensive spirit catalyze a turning point? Still, the weight of the war is heavy. The Ukrainian General Staff stands firm, countering claims of encirclement with potent resolve. "We will not falter," echoes the sentiment, as a resolve to defend Pokrovsk intensifies. The battle wears on like a fevered nightmare, a city caught in a relentless storm. Each civilian's plight, every soldier's sacrifice, intertwines in a painful melody of heroism and desperation. As reports of resistance grow, hope ignites amidst the shadows of despair. Pokrovsk is not lost yet, though the battle rages on. The clash between Ukraine's valor and Russia's ambitions unfolds like a grim tale, blazing a path toward an uncertain tomorrow. Will Pokrovsk emerge from the ashes, or will it succumb to the relentless advance of an oppressor? Only time will reveal the truth hidden within the city's beleaguered walls. Every winter since the conflict erupted, a new chapter unfolds. As the chill of 2025 sets in, Russian aerial strike planners are sharpening their focus on a critical battleground, Ukraine's substations. Reports indicate that cities like Kiev, Kharkiv, Dnipro, and Poltava have already begun to feel the impending darkness. But here's the twist: Ukraine is turning the tables, and its president, Volodymyr Zelensky, made that clear on October 6. In an emotional vlog, Zelensky stated that the Russians fail to grasp the true cost of their blackouts and the harsh realities faced by the Ukrainian people. The message was clear: Russia must feel the repercussions of these actions. Ukraine is taking decisive steps, targeting military installations and energy facilities that fuel the conflict. The endgame? To inflict sweeping blackouts in southern and western Russia, hitting Moscow where it hurts. On November 1, the heart of Russia plunged into darkness thanks to Ukraine's drone strikes, a bitter taste of its own medicine. Imagine Moscow's streets dimming as temperatures drop to a bone-chilling 14 degrees Fahrenheit. The question looms large: which side will crack first in this high-stakes game of power? Analysts suggest it might be Russia. A recent article by Meduza paints a portrait of a nation caught off guard. Ukrainians are learning from past brutal encounters, stockpiling generators and batteries, many with Western support, to thwart Russia's next strike. They are determined to shield their power grid from the looming storm. But herein lies a tantalizing twist: how ready is Russia for Ukraine's counteroffensives? With blackouts already haunting Russian regions, the answer isn't clear. As Ukraine implements its clever strategies, questions arise. Can Russia sustain its assaults while grappling with the repercussions of its own actions? The landscape is shifting, and the stakes are impossibly high. Darkness may soon befall both nations, but the question remains: who is truly prepared to fight for the light? In the heart of Ukraine, a city named Pokrovsk stands defiantly against encroaching darkness. As rumors swirl from the east, one chilling question haunts the air: is Pokrovsk truly surrounded, or is it a mirage conjured by propaganda? Russia claims that its forces have encircled the city, issuing a haunting call for Ukrainian soldiers to surrender. With the clang of weapons and the acrid scent of smoke filling the streets, the tension mounts. Can hope withstand this relentless storm? From the outside, the situation seems crucial. Reports indicate that Russian forces are closing in, consolidating their grip on the beleaguered city. The Guardian brought forth claims that combat has escalated, with pressure mounting everywhere. Yet, beneath this facade, another story unfolds, one of resilience and counter-narrative. Ukrainian commanders urge caution, asserting that the alleged encirclement may not be as dire as Russia proclaims. What if the truth is more nuanced than the clamor suggests? They struggle amidst chaos, with one soldier named Katerina Kononchuk painting a grim picture. The situation is difficult, she states, each day gets a bit worse. But is this copy of despair the whole truth? Her words echo, revealing the reality of Russia's tactics, described as a slow seep rather than a full-on assault. Boxes grow heavier with each advancing troop, but fading hope remains in the hands of the defenders keeping watch. Peering deeper, the fog of war reveals Ukrainian forces pushing back, utilizing intelligence to track enemy movements. Drones zip overhead, capturing images of skirmishes. The ebb and flow of conflict underscores the resilience of Pokrovsk. The very essence of survival in this theater relies on cunning and determination. Imagine the sound of our defenders, strategizing in the shadows, anticipating the next step in a relentless game of chess. Amidst the turmoil, does the truth not glimmer somewhere in the shadows? As December approaches, the stakes rise. Russia may believe victory is imminent, dichotomous stories clash across battlegrounds. Yet, Ukrainian defenses adapt, strategizing to counter Russian tactics. Just as a connected web of deception may be unraveling, new alliances bloom across Europe as other nations step in. Could this support create a powerful synergy, fueling the flame of resistance within Ukraine's borders? Ultimately, in a clash where every detail matters and each breath could change the future, can the indomitable spirit of Pokrovsk silence the rhetoric of surrender? Will the defenders rise each day, embracing their role in a narrative much larger than themselves? This relentless struggle encapsulates hope and determination, forging a path forward for a city that refuses to yield. In the heart of Pokrovsk, a city teetering on the brink, a battle rages that has become a symbol of defiance. As reports swirl, claiming that Russian forces have encircled this vibrant hub, the truth is shrouded in a fog of propaganda. Are the defenders of Ukraine truly trapped, or is there much more beneath the surface? In recent days, Russian media blasted claims that the Ukrainian soldiers should surrender, lest they be consumed by the flames of their own city. The tension crackled in the air as soldiers held their ground, fighting back against the overwhelming narrative pushed by enemy propaganda. While the situation certainly appeared grim, the die had not been cast. Pokrovsk, long a bastion of resistance, had more stories to unfold. Western outlets, including sources like The Guardian, painted a dire picture, noting the tightening grip of the Kremlin's forces. Yet, amid conflicting accounts, whispers of resilience mingled with despair echoed through the battleground. Ukrainian commanders, bolstered by reports from those entrenched within the fight, began to challenge the narrative. They insisted this was not a foregone conclusion but a struggle of grit and tenacity, fueled by the overwhelming drive to protect their homeland. In the days leading up to November 5, as the dust settled, Ukrainian forces organized their own measures to thwart the onslaught. Daily, they faced Russian advances amidst the rubble of what was once a lively city. A soldier named Kononchuk shared insights, painting a vivid image of a city under siege but not yet broken, stating, "We are trying to control it. But unfortunately, it's only been getting worse." Despite the enemy's slow creep, she highlighted the determination to stave off despair. But while some reported imminent doom, the defenders remained unmoved. Echoes of tactical innovation flew across the battlefield, as Russian forces adopted a seeping strategy, slowly pushing into neighborhoods, aiming to erode the Ukrainian defenses. Yet, commanders like Alexander Sisky articulated a different reality, pointing out the enemy's lack of cohesion and the vulnerabilities thinned in their ranks. Stripped of their previous blunt force tactics, Russian soldiers found themselves digging in as mere shadows, waiting for moments to plant flags, a mere tactic for morale rather than a show of strength. The claims of encirclement, fanned by flames of ambition, were quickly met with skepticism by Ukrainians and their allies alike. Sonik, a soldier within the UAV unit, debunked this looming threat, stating, "There's no full encirclement. Unfortunately, fighting is ongoing." With a spirit undeterred, Ukraine's military apparatus adapted, fortifying their resolve while employing specialized units against each infiltrating crew. Each battle inflicted heavy consequences on Russian forces, with Ukrainian strikes decimating their ranks and resources. The seemingly endless attrition pushed on, forcing Russia to pause and reconsider their approaches. Meanwhile, the tenacity of the defenders resonated starkly as they mounted a fierce defense, emboldened by the idea that victory could emerge from the chaos. So, what future awaits Pokrovsk? As the echoes of gunfire recede into the bitter cold nights, and the city stands defiant amidst smoke and echoes of conflict, one must ask, are these struggles merely ripple effects, or will they serve as the foundation for an enduring legacy? In the shadows of a city embroiled in turmoil, resilience flares brightly, proving once again that hope springs eternal amid despair. The sound of sirens echoes through the streets of Pokrovsk as tensions mount. Russia has effectively cornered the Ukrainian forces within the city, claiming that the end is near. The propaganda machine churns out messages urging Ukraine's defenders to surrender or face obliteration. Yet, is this the full story? The encirclement, touted as a certain victory for Russia, may not be as solid as they would like the world to believe. Reports of Russian advances flood the media, painting a grim picture of the battlefield. On November 5, a piece from The Guardian states that Russia is tightening its grip on Pokrovsk, stirring anxiety within the ranks of defenders. Ukrainian soldiers, like Sergeant Kononchuk, acknowledge the peril. The situation is difficult, she admits, feeling the pressure of an encroaching enemy and the weight of expectation. But is surrender the only option? While Ukraine's hold may seem precarious, the response from the front lines hints at a different reality. Ukrainian military leaders and soldiers alike refuse to bow to Russian claims of complete dominance, insisting that they are still in control. The narrative of defeat projected by Russia is met with a defiant counterattack. "There's no full encirclement," asserts a drone operator known only as Sonik. "The enemy is here, but we are fighting back." Amidst sporadic gunfire and the chaos of urban warfare, the tension mounts. Pokrovsk's defenders are not merely surviving, they are adapting. Ukraine's strategy is shifting away from conventional confrontations to a more nuanced approach, disrupting Russian infiltrators while continuing to press for tactical advantages. In just one day alone, Ukraine claims to have inflicted significant casualties on the Russian forces. So why, despite these successes, does the narrative of defeat echo louder? With winter approaching, the stakes have never been higher. Russia's leadership pushes propaganda, hoping to shatter the morale of Ukraine's fighting spirit. On the surface, it appears they hold the upper hand, but reality is far murkier. Ukrainian General Staff vehemently denies the assertion of encirclement, claiming that their forces are actively engaging Russian units. What does the future hold for the beleaguered city of Pokrovsk? As Ukraine bolsters its defenses with elite units and strategic counteroffensives, the air thickens with uncertainty. The question looms, will Pokrovsk hold against the relentless assault, or will the cries of its defenders fade into silence when winter arrives? The fate of a city and its defenders hangs in fragile balance. It's only a matter of time. That's the chilling mantra Russia wants the world, and Ukraine especially, to swallow about the potential collapse of Pokrovsk. The city appears encircled in the Kremlin's twisted narrative, with propaganda screaming that Ukrainian defenders should give up before they burn with the place they're fighting to protect. Sure, the outlook for Ukraine and Pokrovsk isn't rosy, with Russia's relentless advances chipping away at defenses. But is the fall inevitable? Absolutely not. Ukraine is battling back, dismantling the lies spun by Moscow, and the frontline data reveals a stark truth: complete encirclement remains a mirage, a disinformation smokescreen. Mainstream outlets, like The Guardian, have echoed rumors of imminent doom after Russia's stepped-up assaults, including small infiltration squads escalating into broader offensives. Yet maps from Ukrainian deep state sources paint a different picture: gray zones of fierce fighting, not capitulation. Russian military chiefs taunt surrender, claiming encirclement in Pokrovsk and Kupiansk, while even some Ukrainian voices admit the grim strain. Sergeant Konstanchuk describes a creeping enemy erosion of lines, infiltrating in twos and threes to destabilize defenses. Ukrainian commanders like Oleksandr Syrskyi debunk the encirclement myth, stressing that Russian troops skulk in buildings, hiding like rats waiting to be flushed out by drones and strikes. Soldiers like the drone operator calling himself Sonic mock the proving ground tactics. Noting Russia's use of inexperienced conscripts as easy targets, up to 80% of infiltrators lack real combat skills, turning them into cannon fodder. Official Ukrainian General Staff confirm no full encirclement, with defenses holding strong against infiltrations. Ukraine's elite units, including special ops from the 425th Command, scour and eliminate threats, inflicting heavy casualties. In just 24 hours before November 5, Ukraine claimed 249 Russian losses, destroyed vehicles, tanks, and drone hubs. Western allies, including talks of air defenses, bolster the fight. Russia may brag of milestones, but Ukraine's resolve and evidence expose the farce Pokrovsk holds, and the winter war for Ukraine's soul intensifies. Picking up from the previous report of November 2, where Euronews detailed a devastating Russian drone missile barrage that claimed 2 Ukrainian lives and ravaged homes and infrastructure, the story grows darker. That strike, though smaller than past atrocities, unleashed an inferno of fear across Zaporizhia, plunging 60,000 residents into pitch-black darkness while wounding many more. The acrid stench of scorched metal lingers in the air, mingling with the bitter chill of autumn, as shattered glass crunches underfoot and distant sirens wail like mournful ghosts. Russia hurled 79 drones and 2 Iskander ballistic missiles, a calculated blow echoing the winter horrors to come. Ukraine braces for relentless assaults on its energy heart, with United Nations warnings of escalating civilian carnage. 2024 saw a 30% spike in aerial strike deaths. A grim preview of 2025's potential carnage triggering layered crises of collapse. The International Energy Agency's ominous October 22 analysis foreshadows disasters unless Ukraine fortifies defenses, streamlines repairs, and decentralizes grids. But hold tight, a twist of hope emerges with international aid, including fresh Patriot air defense systems from Germany in early November. Imagine the question that haunts winter nights: can Ukraine fend off Putin's energy siege, or will darkness swallow the nation's spark? This barrage wasn't just an assault, it was a psychological dagger, making the cold creep into your bones as you fumble for light. Though this hit was modest compared to Russia's historic savagery, including those 79 drones and a pair of Iskander ballistic missiles, the devastation rammed home. Zaporizhia groaned under the weight, Euronews reported, with 60,000 powerless in the blackout, injuries piling atop the 2 fatalities we griped about. That's the stark reality Ukraine faces all winter. Forthcoming Russian barrages on energy veins will dwarf this, armed with swarms of drones and missiles. Norway grasps this menace, aligning with United Nations and International Energy Agency alarms. The UN predicts a 30% jump in 2025 civilian deaths from aerial mayhem versus 2024, a brutal escalation signaling amplified butchery. These strikes could birth a vicious cycle, spiraling more innocents into the abyss, the agency warns. The IEA's bleak October 22 take on Ukraine's impending winter chill demands action, bolster infrastructure shields, possible now with Germany's seized Patriot batteries in early November, accelerate repair chains, and scatter energy hubs. Norway's $150 million lifeline tackles those exact fronts, patching defenses and resilience. Suddenly, Putin confronts a defiant shift, Norway bolstering Ukraine militarily and energetically against the freeze. Russia won't halt its pounding, but such aid dulls the blow of its crippling gambit. But what if Ukraine's defenses crumble first, leaving a humiliated Kremlin exposed in failure? The twist? Norway's move isn't isolated, it's part of dragging Ukraine into Europe's shield, forging direct bonds over past handouts. Will this alliance ignite victory, or fuel Russia's desperate retaliation? You won't believe the seismic shifts brewing. Norway has ramped up its military support for Ukraine, aiming to bolster its energy resilience during the harsh winter months ahead. As Russia continues its aggressive assaults on Ukrainian energy infrastructure, this newfound commitment from Norway is crucial. With every effort, the turmoil inflicted by Russia could be mitigated, reducing the impact of its ongoing strategy designed to further strain Ukraine's stability. Norway's initiative is not merely reactive, it's part of a broader strategy to integrate Ukraine more profoundly into the European defense framework. This shift signifies a transformation in alliances, highlighting Norway's intention to foster direct defense connections with regional partners rather than solely depending on external aid. In a clever move, Norway's actions have already started to rattle Russia, leaving its regime vulnerable. However, this is just the beginning. Forthcoming measures could escalate the pressure on Moscow even further. Alongside military aid, there are persuasive calls within Norway for the nation to tap into its staggering $2 trillion sovereign wealth fund to support Ukraine financially. Ukraine is grappling with a precarious economic situation after nearly 4 years of conflict. Reports suggest that, if current conditions persist, Ukraine may face a financial drought by early 2026. To avert this crisis, the European Union is pondering a loan backed by $160 billion in frozen Russian assets. However, bureaucratic hurdles are delaying this critical initiative. Into this mix steps Norway, a wealthy nation with considerable resources at its disposal. Prominent voices within Norwegian politics advocate for leveraging the wealth fund to not only address Ukraine's immediate financial struggles but to solidify long-term support. 5 political parties, including 3 that are poised to support the sitting prime minister's government, endorsed this bold initiative. With pressure mounting, the prime minister has initiated a comprehensive review of how Norway can deploy its resources effectively to bolster Ukraine's position against Russian aggression. As the tension escalates, could Norway's strategic financial decisions shift the tide in favor of Ukraine? The implications of these choices could reverberate across Europe, defining the course of support for months to come. What will be their next move in this high-stakes geopolitical game? In the heart of Europe, a fierce battle rages beneath the surface. Could Norway be the unexpected battlefront in the clash between Ukraine and Russia? With its vast sovereign wealth fund at its disposal, Norway is poised to take a stand against Putin's aggression. Reports have emerged that the current government's allies are urging Norway to harness its financial power to support Ukraine. Could this be the turning point in the struggle? As tension mounts, Prime Minister Støre appears to heed the call. He has initiated an extensive review of how Norway can utilize its wealth in support of Ukraine and to kickstart innovative EU loan strategies. However, there's no official agreement yet. Norway possesses more than enough resources to assist in navigating the frozen asset dilemma. Developing momentum around supportive financial discussions, voices within Norway are rising in favor of Ukraine. But for now, the nation waits, suspended in uncertainty. Imagine the scenario: if Norway commits to these loans, the landscape for Ukraine shifts dramatically. Economically crippled, Ukraine has been fighting against the odds, hoping to withstand the relentless pressure from Putin. Norway's backing could deliver a stunning counter to the Russian strategy. Would this infusion of support spark a resurgence in Ukrainian resilience? As the tide of conflict ebbs and flows, this glimmer of hope could become a lifeline. But what does this mean for Russia? Reinforcing ties between Ukraine and European allies is precisely what Putin fears most. His vision for a divided Europe, one that would crumble under internal strife, now faces a formidable counterforce. The Kremlin's aggressive tactics, designed to intimidate, show little effect in Norway. Instead, they have prompted a heightened sense of urgency among Norwegians to prepare for potential conflicts with Russia. Recent analyses detail Russia's relentless efforts to undermine Western influence, from Belarus to the Balkans. The stakes are high, and the divide is deepening. For Putin, a united European front against his ambitions spells disaster. As Norway strengthens its alliances and fortifies its defenses, it sends a powerful message: intimidation will no longer reign supreme. With its newfound commitment to Ukraine, can Norway shift the balance of power? While the uncertainty looms, one undeniable truth remains: Norway is stepping up at a pivotal moment, transforming the dynamics of the conflict, and signaling to the world that resistance will prevail. What lies ahead in this unfolding saga remains to be seen, but the echoes of history whisper a tale of hope and defiance rising from the north. In the chilling dance of geopolitics, Norway stands resolute against Russia's shadow. A bold statement of resilience emerges from the Nordic country, as it ramps up preparations with new aid initiatives. Confronted by Vladimir Putin's relentless intimidation tactics, Norway refuses to bow under pressure, instead fortifying its defenses. But what lies behind this ironclad stance? Picture the scent of fresh earth as construction crews burrow into the ground, unearthing bomb shelters beneath modern apartment buildings. These shelters, a nod to history, were last constructed in the late 1990s. Now, this resurgence sends a clear message: Norway is not afraid. Is this a warning for Putin or a necessary step to secure the future? What does it take to prepare for a looming threat? Despite Russia's recent outburst threatening to ban Norwegian fishing vessels as retaliation against EU sanctions, Norway stands undeterred. Putin's empty threats serve only to bolster Norway's resolve, reminding the nation of its robust $2 trillion sovereign wealth fund. The question lingers: will Putin's gamble bear fruit, or could it awaken a sleeping giant even more dangerous? While the Russian economy teeters on the brink of collapse, its citizens' patience wears thin, casting a pall of unrest. With widespread predictions of civil strife and political turmoil, the desperation grows palpable. Russian experts observe the tempest brewing within. Should this storm break, how will Putin navigate the chaos he has sown? Norway's unyielding support for Ukraine starkly contrasts Russia's faltering grip. The recent plan to bolster Ukraine's capabilities signifies not just solidarity but also a declaration of intent. If Norway harnesses its economic power, could it render Russia's strategic threats impotent? The stakes are high, and as tensions elevate, will Norway's approach pave the way for a formidable response that could redefine the region? In a world where power shifts and alliances fluctuate, the drama unfolds. What lies ahead for both giants on this icy chessboard? Can Norway's resilience truly counter Russia's might, or will the clash of titans unfold in unprecedented ways? The echoes of history resonate. Will the future mirror the past, or will we witness a new era in this long-standing conflict? As the narrative unfolds, each decision might be the tipping point toward an uncertain tomorrow. In a dire predicament, Russia faces a crumbling economy and increasingly restless citizens. Experts warn of potential civil unrest, political upheaval, and chaos. The weight of discontent is palpable, echoing throughout the nation, like ominous thunderclouds signaling an impending storm. Once a proud power, Russia now resembles a sinking vessel, overwhelmed by crises. Observers have been acutely aware of the myriad issues plaguing the country. While Western analysts scrutinize every detail, Russian media often twist the narrative to maintain an illusion of strength, dutifully echoing the Kremlin's propaganda. Military setbacks get buried, while minor victories are blown out of proportion, manipulating the public's perception. Such tactics, a hallmark throughout the ongoing conflict, aim to blind citizens to the dire realities of their situation. Yet, cracks are beginning to appear in the facade. Earlier this year, notable Russian leaders started acknowledging the harsh truths of their economic struggles. At a June forum in St. Petersburg, Elvira Nabiullina, head of the central bank, candidly stated that vital resources were dwindling. Meanwhile, Economy Minister Maxim Reshetnikov grimly forecasted a looming recession, and in August, Prime Minister Mikhail Mishustin confirmed the bleak state of regional revenues. These admissions signal a profound shift. Whereas the government previously propagated an air of invincibility, it now confronts a stark reality. The warning bells sound louder, stirring public sentiment as they awaken to the unsettling prospect of instability. Can Russia rally to reclaim its footing, or will it spiral into disarray? The atmosphere grows thick with unease, revealing the simmering tensions beneath the surface. Armed with a renewed understanding, the people grapple with the stark contrast between the government's reassurances and their lived experiences. As whispers of dissent rise, will they find the courage to challenge the status quo, or will they remain mired in the illusion of a powerful regime? The clock is ticking, and the weight of impending change looms ever closer. In the heart of Eastern Europe, a tension is brewing that could change the fate of thousands. This isn't just about a city, it's a battle for survival. As rumors swirl around the encirclement of Pokrovsk, Ukrainian forces face relentless pressures from Russian propaganda, proclaiming the city's imminent fall. But is that narrative a mere illusion crafted by Kremlin strategists? Imagine the sounds of war, the distant echoes of artillery, the rush of soldiers preparing for a fight, each moment building the suspense of an uncertain future. As the world listens to the conflicting reports, you'd think Pokrovsk was doomed. Russian outlets shout claims of victory, portraying Pokrovsk as a city on the brink of collapse. Yet, the deeper truth reveals a story of resilience. Ukrainian defenders, fueled by unwavering determination, stand firm against the tide, disputing the narrative that they are trapped. The question looms, are they truly surrounded, or is this just a ruse designed to weaken their resolve? The Guardian reported on November 5, illustrating the pinnacle of chaos within Pokrovsk. With Russian forces tightening their grip, the situation appears dire. Yet, amid the turmoil, there are voices that challenge the prevailing narrative. Ukrainian officials and soldiers assert that the supposed encirclement is far from reality. They're not naive, they recognize the danger but refuse to accept defeat. Tales emerge of a commander, Sergeant Kononchuk, who boldly states the enemy's strategy, slowly infiltrating, rather than launching a full-scale assault. Could this slow advance be a sign of Russia's desperation? Amid this conflict, it's crucial to note the strategic realities on the ground. Though Russian flags may rise over parts of Pokrovsk, the inflow of troops is not as mighty as depicted. Instead, it's a calculated infiltration, a dripping faucet of conflict rather than a raging torrent. Ukrainian officials mirrored this sentiment, asserting control and urging defenders to remain vigilant against the creeping threat. The invaders may come, but so does the resolve to stand firm and fight. As both sides dig in for what seems like an endless war, the losses on the battlefield mount. Recent reports highlight significant Russian casualties, underscoring the cost of this drawn-out conflict. If Pokrovsk were truly encircled, wouldn't Russia be pouring in from every direction? Instead, the evidence suggests that the situation is more complex, with soldiers caught in a web of strategy and propaganda. In a shocking twist, the narrative shifts once again. The Ukrainian General Staff firmly states on November 5 that their units are not encircled. Measures are being enacted to counteract the Russian attempts to infiltrate and establish a foothold. There's an urgency in their voices as they describe elite units deployed to stem the tide. The sounds of gunfire might echo through the streets, but courage and strategy emerge as louder than the chaos. In the staggering backdrop of war, the fight over Pokrovsk symbolizes more than just military might, it's a struggle for identity, for existence in the face of overwhelming odds. As soldiers on both sides engage in the struggle for dominance over this critical city, the question remains, what future awaits them when the dust settles? Will the defiance of Ukrainian forces prevail, or will the forces of Russia succeed in their relentless advance? Only time will tell, but amidst the clamor of battle, one truth stands resilient: the spirit of those who fight for their homes and families burns brightly, refusing to be extinguished easily. Amid rising tensions and uncertainty in the region, the fate of Pokrovsk hangs in the balance. Russia broadcasts desperate claims, urging Ukraine's soldiers to surrender or face oblivion. Yet, for those on the ground, the narrative is far from simple. Pokrovsk, a city in the Donetsk region, is not just a dot on the map, it's a battleground teeming with heart-pounding skirmishes, whispers of brave soldiers, and the heavy scent of gunpowder. Recent reports paint a dire picture for Ukrainian forces. Russia's growing military presence seems to envelop Pokrovsk, as if the city itself were being smothered by an advancing storm. As Russia tightens its grip, one cannot ignore the cacophony of artillery fire echoing through the streets. Reports claim that Ukrainian forces are encircled and that imminent collapse is nigh. However, is it the full truth, or is it the clamor of propaganda aimed at sowing despair? Contrary to the claims of impending doom, voices from within Pokrovsk tell a different story. Amidst the chaos, Sergeant Kononchuk voices the struggle against an ever-present threat. The atmosphere is thick with tension, each update brings the potential for heartbreak. It's only getting worse, she confides, capturing the essence of unwavering resilience. Yet, even as clouds of uncertainty loom, information leaks show that the situation is far more dynamic than Russia portrays. A soldier known as Sonik asserts, there's no full encirclement. Indeed, fight back, the Ukrainian spirit thrives. The quick, yet calculated Russian assaults do not reflect a complete takeover, rather, they are probing tactics, hinting at a fractured strategy. What if the encroachment is a facade built on shaky claims? The Ukrainian General Staff counters, highlighting ongoing resistance. The city stands firm, its heart beating in defiance against the encroaching forces. Hints of desperation ripple through Russian claims, but analysts point to evidence suggesting that their control is overstated, mere smoke and mirrors designed to mislead. As reports of skirmishes emerge, the battles rage on. The scent of adrenaline mixes with the dust of artillery bursts. Collectively, Ukrainian defenders forge ahead, mobilizing specialized forces aimed at dismantling these smaller infiltrations. With each pulse of chaos, they are met with a determination that echoes throughout the streets. Protecting Pokrovsk is our calling, they declare, their voices ringing through the crumbling buildings. But as the world watches, how long can this defiance last? Can the Ukrainian forces turn the tide against the looming darkness threatening to envelop their beloved city? The answer may lie in the very streets of Pokrovsk, where the will to fight is ignited by a steadfast love for their homeland, a love that refuses to be extinguished, despite overwhelming odds. As reality unfolds, the battle for Pokrovsk intensifies. The fate of the city and its defenders remains hanging in the balance, and as the conflict continues, the truth beneath the surface reveals itself one skirmish at a time. Can anyone say with certainty what the next chapter in this story will hold? Only the echoes of the brave can guide the outcome. As sensibilities collide in a crescendo of conflict and resilience. The saga of Pokrovsk is far from over, and its heart, much like the spirits of its defenders, beats rhythmically against the instructive silence of doubt. In the heart of a war-torn nation, the struggle for truth and power unfolds. In Russia, many citizens are growing weary of an endless conflict they never wanted. The funeral of Alexei Navalny, a prominent political opponent of Vladimir Putin, drew countless mourners, each one echoing their desire for change. They marched through the streets from St. Petersburg to Vladivostok, brandishing signs and voices of defiance, expressing their disdain for the regime and its warmongering. But the whispers of dissent are morphing into a roiling tide of anger. A recent poll revealed that a staggering 66% of Russians demand peace negotiations, while only 27% still support the war. Pictures of grief flash through their minds, friends lost, families torn apart, and the weight of financial distress hanging heavily in the air. The cracks in Putin's regime are becoming apparent. He no longer enjoys the unwavering support he once commanded. The shadow of his power looms large, yet his grip tightens on a weakening foundation. As Putin struggles to maintain control, a proposition arises: a meritocratic system where leadership is granted to those truly qualified. The thought lingers in the air like the acrid smoke of conflict, raising the question, can a dictator maintain power without the loyalty of his people? Putin's isolation grows amidst a sea of discontent. The streets are alive with energy, as citizens yearn for change. Could this signal a turning point in a nation long held captive? The tension amplifies as dissenting voices come together. What will happen when the weight of public opinion crashes against the walls of power? On the brink of a conflict, one truth remains clear: in this age of uncertainty and unrest, the fate of Pokrovsk hangs in the balance. Will the city stand strong against encroaching forces, or will it succumb to the weight of deception and conflict? The air crackles with anticipation as the next chapter unfolds. In a world teetering on the edge of uncertainty, one question haunts the shadows of power: what happens when a leader's grip begins to falter? In contemporary Russia, this scenario is playing out with an urgency that cannot be ignored. As trust in the government erodes, a voice of reason emerges. Karatev advocates for a meritocratic system, echoing a call for leadership to be earned, not simply bestowed based on loyalty. But will a system built on merit take root in a land bound by tradition and control? This proposal, although revolutionary, encounters the stark reality of modern Russia. History tells us of a nation where power lies firmly in the hands of a singular figure, where favoritism overrides capability. The pattern is clear: those in high office often prioritize allegiance over qualifications. What emerges is a chilling notion from Karatev, who identifies a daunting crisis: dehumanization and the rise of a transhumanist mentality among the Russian populace. He observes a troubling trend of citizens embracing Western capitalist ideals, spiraling into a digital abyss. Instead of active participants in society, many retreat into the confines of their screens, effectively becoming mere consumers, devoid of purpose. Imagine a nation full of individuals content to sit idly by. We need patriots, not couch potatoes. Karatev implores. He recognizes the dire need for a generation ready to shoulder the responsibility for family and country. How can this transformation happen? He urges a back-to-basics approach: instill the values of patriotism, craftsmanship, and community. In an age where technology connects all corners of the globe, Russian youth are at a crossroads. Their values may diverge significantly from the generations before them. As the world evolves, where does Russia stand? While many countries embrace change, nurturing and learning from their youth, Russia appears fixated on molding its own robot generation, a lost opportunity veiled by an ironclad ideology. This conflict of past and future places Russia in a precarious position. Will its youth rise to the challenge of rescuing their nation from stagnation, or will they spiral further into apathy? The clock is ticking, and with each passing moment, the stakes grow ever higher. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting an ominous glow over the city of Pokrovsk, a sense of desperation hung heavy in the air. Army reports echoed chilling assertions: the city was encircled. Russian forces proclaimed that surrender was the only option for the Ukrainian soldiers desperately defending their ground. The enemy's narrative painted a bleak picture, suggesting that Pokrovsk's fall was inevitable. But was that narrative reality, or merely a tactical deception designed to instill fear? Recent days have seen media reports proliferating fears of imminent collapse. Prominent outlets resonated with claims that Russian troops had seized the upper hand, tightening their grip on the beleaguered city. Yet amidst this cacophony of reports, conflicting accounts whispered of hope. Ukrainian soldiers rebutted the dark prophecies, insisting that the situation, while precarious, did not signal despair. Their determination glimmered amidst the swirling chaos. They would not let the city fall easily. The battle for Pokrovsk was reminiscent of a violent chess match, where pieces moved silently and strategically. Soldiers on both sides spoke of a tense stalemate. The Russian forces advanced slowly, infiltrating the city under the cover of darkness. It was not a full-scale assault. Instead, they creeped forward, a war of attrition taking form, with both sides engaged in a dangerous dance of survival. Amidst these skirmishes, the Ukrainian command sent a powerful message: the encirclement was not as proclaimed. With intelligence from various sources, they argued that the Russian forces were not truly surrounding Pokrovsk but rather making small incursions. The sounds of distant gunfire punctuated the conversations, but resilient soldiers held their ground. The cries against Russia's narrative of encirclement reverberated across the battlefield, igniting a flicker of hope among the defenders. Yet as the situation intensified, Ukrainian soldier Katerina Kononchuk stood resolute, her voice heavy with concern. "The enemy seeps in slowly, attempting to break our spirit," she shared. It was a haunting acknowledgement of their plight, underscored by the reality of ongoing skirmishes within the city's heart. One could almost feel the oppressive tension, the scent of gunpowder mixing with the cool evening air as they prepared for whatever came next. Rallied by their leader, the Ukrainian forces resolved to push back against the ominous tide of Russian propaganda. A surge of resistance exploded forth, with special operation units deployed to intercept the encroaching infantry. Strategies evolving amidst adversity, a fight for not just a city but for national identity. Each small victory brought renewed strength, turning moments of despair into a fierce determination to reclaim their ground. And then came the unexpected revelation: as Ukrainian forces refined their tactics, reports emerged detailing their resilience. Just hours before the report's arrival, they had scored significant victories, inflicting heavy casualties on their adversaries. Russian losses mounted as their own soldiers faltered. Caught in the crossfire of a strategic engagement they believed would be effortless. Yet the dynamic display of Ukrainian ingenuity and resolve began to shake the confidence of their adversaries. The drama unfolded daily, with each confrontation a lead-up to an unforeseen climax. Would Russia's claims of victory fall flat, revealing the crack in their armor? As winter approached, dreams of a swift victory began to blur into the reality of a protracted engagement. The defenders of Pokrovsk faced their challenges with grit and tenacity, reminding the world that narratives can be rewritten, and victories are often brewed from the cauldron of despair. The ending, unbeknownst, would sculpt itself with the trials of each coming day, echoing cries of hope amidst the distant drums of war. Building on the dire economic challenges Russia's businesses are grappling with, where 40% of enterprises face mounting payment delays and over a third see drops in demand, a glimpse of potential unrest within Russia unveils scenarios that could shatter its unity. Imagine the air thick with tension, the distant rumble of discontent vibrating through the streets, echoing the whispers of rebellion that Russia has long suppressed. Are you shocked by this looming storm? Could a single spark ignite a civil war in Russia, toppling its crumbling empire before Ukraine's shadows fade? 275 characters, logistical nightmares grip Russia's companies too. The Service of External Intelligence of Ukraine, or HUR, points out 15% of firms now report disruptions. That's a jump from 10% just months ago. 68% slash budgets, trimming admin and service costs to survive. Another 15% halt expansions, burying dreams of growth. Russian leaders admit the chaos feels stifling, eerie uncertainty choking every decision. Many stare at a future devoid of hope. The crushing heap of woes grows too heavy for Russia to shoulder. Its leaders wander aimlessly, policies fraying like worn fabric under relentless pressure. The economy spirals further downward, Russians suffering innocently, day after grinding day. Collapse isn't approaching, it's already unfolding. How deep will Russia plunge before a massive shift alters its course? Picture this: civil war erupting, the Ukraine conflict ending abruptly, or Putin's regime crumbling in a whirlwind of chaos. What explosive turn of fate will strike hardest, burying the lies beneath a new dawn? Yet, in this vortex of despair, a shocking undercurrent emerges. Would you believe that even Putin's loyal puppets are beginning to rebel, their masks slipping in the bitter cold of betrayal? The unexpected twist crashes and Russia's downward plunge might not lead to total oblivion, but to a rebirth born from inner fire. To explore how Putin's influence wanes, slip into the shadows of his fracturing alliances. Feel the chill of isolation biting the skin, as once faithful regimes whisper defiance in dimly lit rooms. Could Russia's defenses crumble under Ukraine's relentless strikes? In the last part, we saw how Russia's aggressive assaults on Pokrovsk were met with fierce Ukrainian resistance, debunking claims of encirclement and exposing Putin's infiltration tactics as a facade. Now, as winter looms, a provocative question grips US: will Russia face its own bleak fate, shrouded in darkness and desperation, as Ukraine turns the tables with devastating counterblows? Imagine the icy grip of fear tightening around Russia's energy infrastructure, where the hum of distant explosions echoes like a relentless heartbeat. The air grows thick with the acrid scent of burnt metal and ozone, as Ukraine strikes hammer substations, plunging cities into an unnatural twilight. Is Russia truly unprepared for this storm, or are we witnessing the beginning of its unraveling empire? Reports suggest Russia's vulnerability is stark. Repairs scramble frantically, but critical components dwindle, painting a chilling picture of shortages that could transform brief blackouts into endless voids. If substations fail completely, temporary flickers become permanent shadows, and doubts linger: does Russia harbor the hidden reserves to weather this onslaught? The touch of uncertainty feels palpable, like frost seeping through cracks in crumbling walls. Meanwhile, Ukraine ramps up its attacks, targeting refineries and other vital points. This strategy, akin to a Norwegian blueprint adapted for the front lines, promises to deepen Russia's discomfort in the coming freezing months. How will Putin explain this reversal? As his homeland shivers under sustained assault? As blackouts spread, Russia's narrative faces humiliation. Its boasts of dominance ring hollow, amplified by the distant rumble of drone strikes and the sharp sting of sabotage. Yet, Ukraine's allies bolster its stand, turning vulnerability into strength. In this emotional crescendo, Putin's propaganda machine falters. The world watches as Norway emerges, launching a bold partnership that humiliates Russia further. On November 4, RBC Ukraine revealed Norway's eye-opening plan, a massive $7 billion infusion for Ukraine in 2026. But this isn't mere cash, it's a revolutionary joint defense production initiative right on Ukrainian soil. Picture the clang of factories awakening amid the war's echoes, where fresh weapons take form under Norway's funding. Sensations of hope surge through the air, the clean rub of new machinery, the hopeful hum of progress amid chaos. Is this the unexpected twist that exposes Putin's isolation, leaving Russia dumbfounded? This mirrors Denmark's 2024 model, forging sustainable support without the hitches of far-flung deliveries. Ukraine's production ramps up, eliminating delays that once doomed efforts. The clash builds, allies band together, while Russia's storms, literal and figurative, brew unrepentant. Will Norway's gamble shatter Putin's grip, or will hidden reserves emerge to humiliate Ukraine in a shocking reversal? Yet, as partnerships strengthen, doubts tease the mind. Can Ukraine fend off Russia's intensified strikes, their staccato impacts vibrating through the earth like ominous tremors? Emotions swell here, desperation against defiance, illumination piercing Russia's gloom. But lurking in the shadows, a rhetorical sting begs: how long until Putin's empire fractures under the weight of its own arrogance? Now, as Ukraine's defenses hold firm in Pokrovsk, this flood of aid signals a turning tide. The sensory assault of war fades slightly, replaced by the gritty taste of grit and the electric buzz of renewed vigor. What's next in this battle of wills? A full Russian collapse, or an unforeseen counter dreaded by all? Stay tuned for the next twist. In the heart of Ukraine, the city of Pokrovsk stands resilient against rumors and relentless attacks. Russia's propaganda machine churns out tales of encirclement, claiming victory is just moments away. But is that reality, or a smokescreen? With Ukrainian forces on edge, the tension is palpable, the stakes higher than ever. In this high-stakes game, the truth unspeakably twists and turns amidst the chaos. What if the reality is more complex than anyone imagines? As the situation unfolds, reports from the front lines reveal a stark contrast to the narrative pushed by Russia. A soldier known by the callsign Sonic, a drone operator with the Dolph Bush Hornet strike unit, shares an urgent perspective. There's no complete encirclement in Pokrovsk or in Minrad, they assert, highlighting the ongoing clashes but firmly denying Russian claims of total control. The sounds of distant explosions and the acrid smell of gunpowder fill the air, but Ukraine's tenacity is unyielding. Though the landscape is fraught with danger, the situation is more nuanced than Russia's media suggests. Sonic reveals that Russia is no longer sacrificing its infantry carelessly. Instead, they have adopted a more calculated approach. Yet, many of their troops lack the experience required to execute effective strategies. About 80% are ordinary soldiers on short-term contracts, making them vulnerable targets for Ukraine's highly trained drone units. Confirming Sonic's claims, the Ukrainian General Staff releases a statement on November 5, emphatically declaring, "There is no encirclement of our forces." They affirm that while the situation remains precarious, Ukraine is mounting a fierce defense, actively thwarting enemy attempts to seize ground within the city. Despite Putin's rhetoric suggesting imminent collapse, the reality is starkly different. Pokrovsk, filled with life, still resists as Ukrainian forces dismantle Russian infiltrations with a determined spirit. As this struggle unfolds, one question lingers: can Ukraine effectively counter the mounting pressure without succumbing to the weight of disinformation? The resilience of Pokrovsk may depend on the unfolding tactical maneuvers and the courage of its defenders, who remain vigilant in the shadows of the fight. The battle isn't merely for land, it's also a war for the truth. What will ultimately emerge from the fog of war, victory or defeat? As the combatants brace themselves for another day, with reports of skirmishes and losses mounting, the drama escalates, underscoring a harsh reality: the heart of Ukraine beats fiercely against overwhelming odds, and the fight for Pokrovsk is far from over. The economy of Russia is teetering on the brink of recession. Even the Prime Minister has acknowledged the grim realities facing the nation. While officials scramble to manage tightening budgets for the coming years, they offer little insight into the causes of the deepening crisis. Now, an alarming voice within Russia's inner circles has raised the stakes, warning of civil unrest and a societal breakdown if significant changes are not made. Alexander Karachev, head of the Presidential Directorate for Monitoring and Analyzing Social Processes, recently published alarming findings in a Russian journal. He unveiled the harsh realities of a nation grappling with serious systemic issues, presenting 5 major challenges that threaten stability. Karachev's views, while controversial, provide a crucial window into the disarray. One of his main concerns is the decline in population. Russia, with its nearly 144 million citizens, ranks 9th in global population. Yet, Karachev predicts a troubling slip down the rankings. He attributes this potential decline to a broader global issue, framed as a misguided societal trend. He cites the lifestyles of urban women, who increasingly prioritize careers over family. With a focus on personal fulfillment, many opt for single parenthood and limit their family size, viewing their partners as an extra burden. His commentary does not stop there. Karachev points to a dire need for urgent action from the state to promote traditional values and preserve the family unit. There's an unsettling sense of urgency in his words, suggesting that without a swift shift in narrative, Russia could face societal collapse. This perspective raises compelling questions. Is Russia's predicament a result of external pressures? Or could it stem from ingrained cultural shifts? What happens when a nation's identity hangs in the balance? The unsettling reality of Russia's struggles is further complicated by internal tensions. Karachev's alarming assertions suggest that the calls for traditional family values, rather than being a simple cultural revival, may be a desperate bid to hold society together in uncertain times. The situation hangs by a thread, and the stakes are higher than ever. Time is running out for meaningful change, and if action is not taken, can Russia avert the chaos that lurks on the horizon? In the smoky shadows of war, resilience clashes with desperation. Pokrovsk, a city caught in the crosshairs between two powerful nations, harbors hope amid rising fear. The battle rages on, But while the echoes of artillery pierce the air, a chilling question looms: is the downfall of this city inevitable, or is it merely a facade crafted by ruthless propaganda? As Russian forces tighten their grip, they echo victorious cries, proclaiming that Ukraine's soldiers should surrender or perish in the inferno of conflict. The narrative spins quickly. Every new report insists Pokrovsk stands on the brink of collapse. But stalwart defenders whisper a different story through the chaos. Unfazed by the looming threat, they cling to their cause with unwavering conviction. Though the situation looks dire, the truth remains buried under layers of deceit. Mainstream media, including prominent outlets, proliferate the alarming narrative of encirclement. Days slip by, and the fear spreads like wildfire. Yet, for every claim of an unstoppable advance, Ukrainian soldiers counter with steadfast denials and fierce determination. One courageous sergeant, whose spirit resonates like the crack of gunfire, offers a glimpse into their world. The enemy might be advancing, but she believes the heart of Pokrovsk still beats defiantly, refusing to succumb. As the stakes rise, Russian tactics shift from brute force to a creeping strategy, attempting to erode resistance piece by piece. But can a drip of water really wear down a stone? Amidst this slow siege, sporadic fighting illuminates layers of dishonesty that shroud the battlefield. Ukrainian forces, aware of their surroundings, engage in a game of cat and mouse, honing in on the infiltrators lurking in the shadows. The air crackles with tension. The commander of Ukraine's armed forces addresses the battlefield realities with somber clarity. Announcing the absence of full encirclement, he emboldens his troops, insisting that resistance remains fierce as they repel enemy advances. The smell of gunpowder mingles with determination, igniting a burning spirit among defenders. Each drone's buzz reverberates like a heartbeat against the backdrop of war. Yet, the challenges are palpable. Soldiers grapple with the weight of fear, but the relentless spirit of those fighting makes the difference. As the ink dries on Ukraine's strategic plans, unity emerges. Support continues to flow in from allies, reaffirming strength amid doubt. Investment in drones and advanced technology shapes a future where hope thrives. These advancements are not just tactical, they ignite an unyielding flame in the fight for freedom. As winter descends, the reality of battle hardens. Pokrovsk's fate hangs in the balance. Yet, through the darkness, glimmers of light appear, hinting at resilience. The chilling winds are no match for the warmth of shared resolve among those who refuse to back down. Like an unbreakable thread woven through the chaos, hope persists, challenging the narrative of despair. With unwavering determination, Ukraine continues to fend off aggressors. Each day unfolds like a tense thriller. As one chapter of confrontation closes, another begins. Will Pokrovsk emerge victorious in this relentless siege, or will it fall, a cautionary tale of underestimation? The answers lie at the intersection of courage and conflict, where every battle could change the tides of destiny. As the resolution draws near, the world waits breathlessly, caught in the gripping saga of defiance against overwhelming odds. In the ongoing struggle for dominance, every winter brings new challenges, and this year, the battle for survival reaches a boiling point. Norway, driven by its commitment to support Ukraine, has pledged an impressive $150 million to bolster the nation's energy security. As the cold advances, the urgency of this funding could not be clearer, particularly with winter temperatures in Ukraine plunging to as low as 23 degrees Fahrenheit. Imagine the icy chill penetrating homes, residents huddled together, desperate for warmth but cut off from reliable energy sources. The situation grows dire as Prime Minister Støre of Norway emphasizes the critical nature of ensuring that every Ukrainian household and business remains warm and functional in the face of Russian aggression. This is a race against time, with winter looming large and power instability hanging over the nation like a dark cloud. The stakes are heightened, as Russia has persistently targeted Ukraine's energy infrastructure, a strategy implemented year after year, designed to inflict suffering and despair. Each strike is a calculated move in a game of tactical terror aimed at diminishing morale and sowing chaos among a besieged populace. The chilling reality is stark. On November 2, a drone strike launched by Russia took 2 lives and damaged essential services, adding to the already heavy toll over past years. With every attack, Russia's intent becomes painfully clear: to sever the lifelines of the Ukrainian people during the harshest months. This assault is not merely a military tactic but a calculated effort to induce fear and hardship among civilians, especially those vulnerable to the biting cold. Norway's assistance is not just welcome, it is vital. As the first frost settles, and with it the clamor of war resonating in the air, the question arises, will these measures be enough to stave off disaster? As technicians work tirelessly to restore power, the quiet persistence of civilians enduring this onslaught highlights their resilience. They are determined not to yield, even as the winter's shadows deepen. In this high-stakes game, what will the long-term consequences be for a nation under siege? As battles rage and resources dwindle, the fight for warmth epitomizes the broader struggle of a country that refuses to bow down. The heart of Ukraine beats strongly, amidst the chill of winter, ignited by unwavering spirit and international support. Will this unity pave the way for survival, or will the winter take its toll, reshaping the landscape of conflict in ways we can only begin to imagine? In a world where every moment counts, the situation in Pokrovsk is teetering on the edge of chaos. Russian forces claim victory is near, shouting propaganda that the city is completely encircled. But is it true? As the tension thickens in the air, the clash between reality and deception unravels. Can Ukraine stave off the impending storm, or is the fall of Pokrovsk unavoidable? Recent weeks have seen an uptick in Russian attacks, their strategy shifting from small skirmishes to a more concentrated offensive. Mainstream media outlets echo these claims, amplifying the fear that Pokrovsk is set to crumble. The Guardian reported on November 5 that Russian troops are tightening their grip, escalating the urgency of the moment. But is this narrative merely a smokescreen? Amidst the chaos, Ukraine's defenders refuse to surrender. Sergeant Anna Kononchuk, stationed in Pokrovsk, paints a grim picture, stating that conditions are deteriorating. Yet, she insists that despite the enemy's advances, the situation isn't as dire as Russia portrays. Is it possible that a defensive strategy is enough to counteract the looming threat? In stark contrast to the reports of encirclement, many Ukrainian soldiers, like Sonic from the Dolph Bush Hornets UAV unit, insist there is no complete encirclement. Sounds of artillery echo in the distance as they navigate the shifting tides of war. Sonic emphasizes the ongoing fighting in Minrad and Pokrovsk, yet firmly believes that not all hope is lost. Is Russia's claim of total domination just another tactic in their psychological warfare? The battle is not just physical, it's a war of narratives. Ukraine's military leadership echoes Sonic's sentiments, asserting that they are not trapped but actively repelling the enemy. As Russian infantry attempts to infiltrate urban areas, Ukraine responds with precision strikes, revealing a different reality. How long can this resistance hold against the tide of aggression? In the past 24 hours leading up to November 5, Ukrainian forces inflicted heavy losses on the invading troops, over 26 soldiers killed and dozens more injured. The smell of gunpowder lingers in the cold air as the clash continues, painting a vivid picture of warfare. Could this resilience be the turning point for Ukraine, breaking through Russia's creeping advances? With a robust defense and strategic maneuvers, Ukraine is adapting to the evolving landscape of battle. They're deploying elite units, harnessing drone technology, and maintaining morale among their ranks. The stakes are high, but Ukraine is willing to fight for every inch of Pokrovsk. Will this become a decisive moment for Ukraine in the larger war? Norwegian support adds another layer to this complex narrative, with a $7 billion aid package set to bolster Ukraine's capabilities. As winter approaches, the question looms, will this myriad of alliances and strategies ensure Pokrovsk holds its ground against Russian encroachment, or will the chilling winds of defeat sweep through its streets? The fight for Pokrovsk is far from over, and the world watches, breath held, as the story unfolds. In the shadows of a looming crisis, a battle rages in Pokrovsk, a city at the heart of a contentious conflict. Russia, with a steady drumbeat of propaganda, would have everyone believe that the city is about to fall. Yet, as the bells of desperation toll, Ukraine's defenders refuse to yield, embodying resilience against a narrative that paints their situation as dire. But is the encirclement of Pokrovsk truly as inevitable as the Kremlin proclaims? Reports flood in, startling assertions claim that Ukrainian forces are trapped, poised for destruction. But the reality is far more complex. On the ground, accounts from soldiers paint a different picture, one of ongoing conflict, fierce determination, and a struggle not yet lost. The situation is difficult, confesses Sergeant Kononchuk, her voice a blend of fear and resolve, as she describes the subtle, insidious tactics of the enemy while underlining the tenacity of her comrades. No permanent lines, she insists, revealing that the enemy drips in like a slow poison, attempting to corrode their defenses. This chilling revelation begs the question, are these enemy tactics mere bluster or a prelude to victory? Ukraine's senior military leaders dismiss the Kremlin's claims. There is no encirclement, declares the commander-in-chief. Regular skirmishes continue, as soldiers like Sonic, a skilled drone operator, stress that the situation, though precarious, does not reveal the catastrophe Russia insists is unfolding. They note, the enemy is moving in, but not as they claim. Sounding the alarm. They argue that the true story lies in the smaller factions of Russian forces stealthily attempting to infiltrate rather than the grand siege depicted by the Kremlin. As the drama unfolds, mixed signals permeate the battleground. Gripping tension gives way to unexpected twists, where Russian forces find themselves thwarted at every turn, revealing weaknesses in their strategy. Serious losses for the enemy raise eyebrows, 249 casualties in just a few days. Could it be that the narrative of hopelessness is spun from thin air? The pace of conflict suggests a resilience from Ukrainian forces, a shoulder-to-shoulder defense, exemplified by elite units deployed in response to the encroachment. The city of Pokrovsk stands not merely as a battlefield, but as a symbol of defiance against the tide of misinformation. While the mountains of Russian claims rise steep, Ukrainian voices struggle against the current, grasping for truth amidst chaos. "We will not back down," echoes the sentiment across the lines. So, as winter approaches, the question remains, will Pokrovsk crumble under the weight of propaganda and warfare, or will it stand tall, a beacon of unyielding persistence? The saga of this city is far from over, and as the stakes grow higher, the world watches what's coming next. In a gripping tale of resilience and defiance, the fate of Pokrovsk hangs in the balance. As Russian forces proclaim victory over the city, a sinister veil of propaganda attempts to ensnare the spirit of Ukraine's brave defenders. But is the imminent fall of Pokrovsk truly assured, or is it a mere illusion spun by the Kremlin? Imagine the tension, the rumble of artillery echoing in the distance, the acrid smell of smoke mingling with the air, and the heart-pounding anxiety coursing through the streets. The courageous soldiers holding the line know that surrender would only seal their doom. They refuse to cower under the weight of despair. Recent reports suggest that Russian troops are tightening their grip on Pokrovsk, leading many to believe that the city is on the verge of collapse. But behind the scenes, a fierce counter-narrative emerges. Amidst the chaos, Ukrainian commanders are conducting strategic assessments, stating categorically that no encirclement exists. In their words, the Russian advance is a calculated yet desperate siege, moving in, not with overwhelming force but through shadowy infiltrations. As both sides brace for the inevitable clash, the battlefield is alive with uncertainty. The stakes are sky-high. Filmmakers and journalists swirl around the ongoing combat, positioning their cameras and devices to capture every critical moment. Amidst this, one brave Ukrainian sergeant named Kononchuk speaks out, revealing the brooding reality on the ground. The tension mounts, not just from the sounds of combat, but from the oppressive, charged atmosphere filled with the cries of determination and the resolve to defend their homeland. As she articulates the struggle to maintain control over Pokrovsk, the urgency in her voice resonates. On November 5, the echoes of war grow louder, with unease sweeping through the ranks of Russian soldiers as Ukraine mobilizes its elite units for defense. It's a narrative of contrasts, as reports circulate of casualties and shifting strategies. Are the tables turning in Ukraine's favor as they adopt innovative tactics and bolster their defenses, or is the looming threat of encirclement, meanwhile, a figment of the Russian imagination? A soldier known only as Sonic offers a glimmer of hope amidst the storm, a revelation that raises questions about Russia's true capabilities. Their advancements, Sonic claims, are thinly veiled attempts at deception, ordinary infantry under-equipped and ill-prepared for fierce combat, pitted against the almost instinctual resolve of the Ukrainian defenders. The notion of a complete Russian encirclement crumbles under careful scrutiny, an exhilarating twist that questions everything we thought we knew about the strategies at play. As the dust settles, time stands still. The backdrop of Pokrovsk transforms from a beleaguered battlefield to a stark symbol of defiance. With every passing hour, the reality of war unfolds, a continuous struggle marked by loss, determination, and an indomitable spirit. The stage is set, and the audience holds its breath as the brave defenders of Pokrovsk fight to reclaim their narrative against the tide of propaganda and despair. What will become of Pokrovsk? Will its defenders emerge victorious, or will they fall victim to the Kremlin's sweeping narrative? As the clock ticks, the only certainty lies in the unpredictable nature of war, where the smallest ember can ignite a blaze of change. The fate of a city and an entire nation hangs in the balance. In a gripping saga of courage and defiance, the fate of Pokrovsk hangs in the balance. Russian forces proclaim victory, enveloping the city in a shroud of propaganda designed to break the spirit of Ukraine's valiant defenders. But is the fall of Pokrovsk truly inevitable, or merely an illusion crafted by the Kremlin? Picture the tension, the distant rumble of artillery, the acrid scent of smoke mixing with fear, and the pulsating anxiety coursing through a city at the brink. These courageous soldiers, rooted in resolve, no surrender seals their fate. They refuse to bow to despair. Recent updates suggest Russian troops are tightening their grip on Pokrovsk, leading many to believe the city's collapse is imminent. Yet, beneath the cacophony of war, a fierce counter-narrative arises. Ukrainian commanders firmly checkmate the narrative of encirclement, contending that Russian advances are insidious, marked by shadowy infiltrations rather than overwhelming force. As both sides brace for conflict, the battlefield hums with uncertainty, thick with the weight of looming decisions. Amidst this turmoil, journalists and filmmakers swirl around the combat zones, eager to capture each harrowing moment. In the thick of the chaos stands Sergeant Kononchuk, a voice of truth on the ground. Her words pierce the tension. The situation is difficult, but we control what we can. The urgency in her tone reverberates through the ranks, as soldiers strive to hold their ground against the encroaching tide. On November 5, as the war drums beat louder, unease ripples through Russian ranks. Ukraine, mobilizing its elite forces, races to reinforce Pokrovsk's defenses. The narrative shifts. Is the tide turning in Ukraine's favor as they adapt their strategies? Or is the fear of encirclement simply a mirage conjured by the Kremlin? A soldier known only as Sonic sheds light on this precarious situation, questioning the very fabric of Russian capabilities. Their alleged advancements are mere facades, Sonic argues, ordinary troops inadequately prepared for the fierce resistance they face. The notion of complete encirclement crumbles under scrutiny, sparking a revelation that challenges everything previously believed about the battlefield strategies. As clarity emerges, Pokrovsk transforms from a war-torn landscape into a bastion of resilience. Time slows as the reality of conflict unfolds, loss intertwined with relentless determination, igniting an indomitable spirit among Ukraine's defenders. The stage is set, and the world watches, breath held tightly. Will Pokrovsk's defenders triumph as they reclaim their narrative against the wave of propaganda? Or will they succumb to the overshadowing influence of the Kremlin's claims? As the clock ominously ticks down, one truth remains: in war, the smallest flicker can ignite a blaze of change. The destiny of a city, and of an entire nation, hangs delicately in the balance. In the heart of Ukraine, the city of Pokrovsk stands determined against a storm of rumors and relentless assaults. Russia's propaganda aims to convince the world that encirclement is imminent, that victory is just around the corner. But is this narrative rooted in truth, or merely a veil of smoke? As tensions rise, the air crackles with anxiety, and the stakes are at an all-time high. What if the reality is far more intricate than anyone dares to believe? Amidst the chaos, reports from the front lines tell a different story than the one Russia broadcasts. A soldier known by the callsign Sonic, a keen drone operator with the Dolph Bush Hornet Strike UAV unit, offers a crucial perspective: there's no full encirclement here, neither in Minrad nor in Pokrovsk. While the sounds of distant explosions rumble in the background and the acrid scent of gunpowder hangs in the air, Ukraine's determination remains unshakable. Although danger looms on every corner, the truth reveals a story that defies Russia's oversimplified media narrative. Sonic sheds light on a significant shift in Russian tactics. No longer are they sacrificing their infantry heedlessly, a more strategic approach is at play. Yet, a daunting reality persists: many of their troops lack the combat experience essential for executing these strategies effectively. Sonic estimates that nearly 80% of Russian soldiers in the area are ordinary conscripts on short-term contracts, rendering them vulnerable targets for Ukraine's skilled drone units. On November 5, the Ukrainian General Staff echoed Sonic's observations, unequivocally stating, "There is no encirclement of our forces." They assert that, though challenging, Ukraine is fiercely defending Pokrovsk, actively countering enemy attempts to establish their foothold within the city. Despite Putin's claims of an imminent collapse, the true reality paints a stark contrast. Pokrovsk, alive and breathing with the spirit of its defenders, continues to resist as Ukrainian forces dismantle Russian infiltrations with determination. As this conflict unfolds, a pressing question lingers in the air: can Ukraine successfully withstand the tidal wave of misinformation while countering increasing pressure? The future of Pokrovsk pivots not just on military maneuvers but also on the courage of its defenders, who remain vigilant and resolute amidst the thickening fog of war. The battle here isn't simply for territory, it's equally a mission to reclaim the truth. What will emerge from the chaos, triumph or turmoil? With each passing day, reports of skirmishes and casualties add to the drama, amplifying a harsh realization: the heart of Ukraine beats robustly against insurmountable challenges, and the struggle for Pokrovsk is far from over. As both sides brace for what lies ahead, the tension continues to mount, reminding everyone that this isn't just a war of weapons, it's a battle for belief, identity, and the very essence of resilience. As tensions mount in Russia, the nation's economy teeters on the brink of recession. Even Prime Minister Mikhail Mishustin has painted a grim picture of the country's financial landscape as regional governors face tough decisions. Social unrest looms, threatening to unravel the fabric of society unless urgent reforms are initiated. An ominous voice from within the Kremlin, Alexander Karachev, has peeled back the layers of this crisis, unveiling chilling findings that could reshape the nation's future. Karachev, head of the Presidential Directorate for Monitoring and Analyzing Social Processes, sounds the alarm over 5 critical threats poised to destabilize Russia. Among the most alarming is the nation's decreasing population. With nearly 144 million citizens, Russia ranks 9th globally, but Karachev predicts a significant drop. He attributes this decline to a troubling trend among urban women, who are increasingly prioritizing careers over family life. They embrace single parenthood and often view partners as burdens, opting for personal fulfillment instead. Karachev calls for immediate state intervention to promote traditional family values. His words resonate with an unease that suggests a society on the edge, hovering between the need for progress and the preservation of its roots. What happens when a nation grapples with its identity, caught between modern aspirations and cultural traditions? The stakes are high. Should Russia fail to recalibrate its narrative, it risks a societal collapse. Karachev raises critical questions. Are the challenges faced by Russia the result of external adversities? Or are they reflections of pervasive cultural shifts? As he presses for action, a sense of urgency permeates the discourse. The fight for Russia's future may not just be about economics, it involves the very essence of what it means to be Russian. The shadows of discontent grow darker. The urgency of Karachev's pronouncements signals a desperate plea for a return to foundational values, signaling that without swifter action, an unraveling awaits just beyond the horizon. How long can the nation hold on before it is consumed by the chaos it fears? The answer may well determine Russia's trajectory along a precarious path fraught with uncertainty. In the midst of a brewing storm, a fierce battle unfolds in Pokrovsk, an emblematic city steeped in conflict. The Kremlin's steady deluge of propaganda suggests the city is on the brink of collapse. But as desperation echoes through the air, the Ukrainian defenders dig in their heels, resolute against a narrative laden with despair. Can the encirclement of Pokrovsk truly be as unavoidable as Russia claims? Reports come in, painting a grim picture. Ukrainian forces are purportedly cornered, just waiting for obliteration. However, the truth beneath the surface is far more intricate. Soldiers recount a reality filled with unyielding vigor and ongoing strife, reflecting a spirit that remains unbroken. The situation is difficult, admits Sergeant Kononchuk, her voice tinged with both fear and defiance. She describes the enemy's creeping tactics, highlighting the night silence interrupted only by distant rumblings of conflict. We have no permanent defenses, she emphasizes, illustrating how the foe infiltrates like a sneaky venom, aiming to erode their resilience. This unsettling insight prompts a crucial question: are these enemy maneuvers simply bravado masking deeper vulnerabilities, or are they indicators of impending victory? Ukraine's leadership resolutely counteracts the Kremlin's assertions. No encirclement exists, proclaims the commander-in-chief, as battles continue sporadically. Soldiers like Sonic, an adept drone operator, reiterate that conditions may be dire, yet they dismiss Russia's catastrophic narrative. The enemy moves in, but not as the Kremlin claims, they emphasize. Pointing to the feeble factions of Russian forces trying to slip through the cracks rather than executing a full siege. As these tensions escalate, a surprising narrative unfolds. Russian forces stumble at multiple junctures, revealing cracks in their strategic facade. Astonishingly, reports indicate Russian casualties have surged to 249 within just a few days. Could the specter of despair be conjured from mere illusion? The rhythm of warfare illustrates an unwavering Ukrainian defense, epitomized by elite units rallying to confront the looming threat. Pokrovsk emerges not merely as a battleground, but as the very heart of defiance against the tide of disinformation. Amidst towering mountains of Russian claims, Ukrainian voices resonate with truth, struggling fiercely against the current of chaos. "We will not retreat," reverberates along the front lines, as a determination to protect their city remains unwavering. As winter approaches, a pressing question lingers: will Pokrovsk succumb to the weight of fabricated narratives and relentless warfare, or will it rise as a resounding symbol of endurance? The fate of this city remains undecided, and as the stakes intensify, the world eagerly anticipates what lies ahead. What unforeseen developments are brewing amidst the battle for Pokrovsk? The stage is set for revelations that could shift the tide of the conflict forever.